Hi, and welcome to Thursday with a Friend. My name is Lawrence, and today I have a guest that a lot of you guys probably haven't seen, and we are now also doing a show. So we're co-hosting a show that is about the Amazon original show Reacher called Talking Reacher. So my special guest here is Adam Vale. Thank you for joining me. You and I have been talking an absolute lot lately, so I feel like just sitting down in this chair. I'm not used to seeing too many other people over there when it's just one on one. So, how are
Mhm.
you doing today? And thank you for joining me.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Woo! Every time I hear that intro, I have pretty long hair. I just feel like going headbanging. Ow! Let it
I,
go!
I had to change it because
I
the
remember. Yeah, I know. There's
and
always some suckers out there trying to ruin a good time. That's just what they
I'm
do.
so
Damn
disappointed.
internet.
But I was talking to a buddy on Facebook, and he said, "Yeah, that he said their rights just got bought. I think their rights just got bought, or the singer or whoever does it just they started monetizing it. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're kind of not going after people, but they're trying to get as much money from it, like whatever.
Oh, I got you,
Um,
man. I've
but
gotten. Yeah.
no one was really watching a show for the intro music.
Mhm.
But hey, whatever. But let's just quickly, before we get into everything, let's talk about this whole Amazon Reacher thing. And we're not going to spend the whole time on it because if you're watching Amazon Reacher, uh, the first three episodes dropped today. So we want you to go over there and watch it. It's kind of like this, kind of like what Matthew and I did on Punks on Film, except for it's about an hour long, and it's not
Yeah.
about an old movie. It's something that just recently came on. And again, Matthew, if you're watching, I apologize. I talked to you about it. This was not my idea. It was brought to me, and it's not even on my channel. So in the description, you can find um, links to the coalition, which is where you broadcast at.
Correct.
And so, quickly tell everyone where this idea of Talking Reacher came from and how we got involved.
All right. So my name is Adam Vale. I am a senior editor over at thecoalition.com. That's an entertainment site. We cover TV, movies, video games. Been around for like over 20 years right now. And we're pretty established on that end. So whenever we get content from the studios or from game studios, whatever, they always want us to cover certain things. And I have my own set of interests, and shows that I like to cover. One of them is The Walking Dead. I have a podcast called I Am Negan. That's one of the longest ones still running out there, just dedicated to Walking Dead and the spin-offs. So anyway, I was like, I want to branch out to something else. And then I interviewed you on our channel, and you just brought it up. It was very organic that it came up. You're like talking about shows. And I was like, yeah, and Reacher is a good show to watch. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I like watching Reacher. So then when Amazon sent out a message about, hey, we got some screeners and are you interested in covering and this and that, I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And instead of just writing our review pieces and stuff, I'd love to do a show just talking about Reacher. Like, I'm sure there's people out there covering it and this and that, but I got my own voice. You have your own voice.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear from someone else. I'd rather just get with a friend, and we'll just battle back and forth, just like as if we were on the couch just watching it, and then just have a good time. So I was like, you know what? Let's go with that. I sent out a message to you. Are you interested? You said yes, and the rest is history. Now we're just trying to get everything else on the back end situated. But yeah, the show is up. The first three episodes are up over on thecoalition.com. You just do a search for Talking Reacher, or on Spotify, you could do a search Talking Reacher on there. Now, there's something I brought up with you and for you guys watching and stuff. When you go on episode 3, when you get to it, of course, watch the show. Fun show. I put a poll there because, and I'll discuss this with you. As you know, YouTube is a video format. Spotify is usually an audio format.
Yep,
But
I was glad
lately,
you told me.
yeah, and lately they've been sending me a lot of messages. Hey, we do video. Hey, we're interested in video. Show me all these analytics and the percentage. I'm like, all right. Well, I've never done it that way. So I said, let's try it. And you agreed. So episode 3 is the video format. And I put a poll that just says, hey, Do you prefer audio or video, or you don't care when it comes to the podcast format? So if you can, just give us feedback, because this is all new again for us on this end with this. See how you guys like to consume this type of content. So that is the long and short of with the whole story with Reacher and why I decided to jump in, because I love the first 2 seasons, and I remember talking to my buddies and people, and it's like, oh, you watching this? He smashed this dude's face, and they threw a guy out of the plane, and they were like, we're covering other stuff, man. I'm glad you're interested, and I'm like, oh my Lord. So
is not the podcast called The Reach Around.
Right, the Reacher. Oh, that's a different one. That's the uncut, the Reacher. So,
we will talk about it a little bit later. I think we covered most, but I want to say this here. We did the interview, which was recorded over there on the Coalition. And if you haven't checked that out, I did post a link a while back.
With a K. Yeah. There is a Coalition with a C with a K. Yeah.
Well, you can find it by hitting the links in the description. But when you asked me about doing this, I was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Because we watch them ahead of time because of the screeners that you have. But I remember asking you, when does it air? And when you gave me the date, I was like, I think that's the date that you're supposed to come on. That was just a happy accident. The fact that you're on today and it aired today was by complete accident. We didn't plan it like this. You were already scheduled, so even if we didn't do it, you were gonna be here. Which, wow, how did that just?
It was meant to be, and that's why we're gonna have 50,000 followers, and it's gonna be listed as the best show. Amazon is gonna reach out to us. They're gonna put us on their platform, not on just Amazon. They're like, you're gonna get your own show. We're gonna have all the interviews, which we could always get. We could always get an interview. We decide to do that.
I wouldn't mind to have that big old beast.
Big dude. With the 7'2" dude. Yeah. We get
when he played Aquaman for he played a lot of different things.
He has. You know what? I could find out about that.
We'll wait and see. So anyway, let's say hi to everyone that is sitting here watching. 19 people watching right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't yet. So we have Menhoza here. We have GI Bro, who I just recently had on. Turk Murphy Toy Solutions, Sean Jones, Machine Man, who I mentioned a little while ago. Gun Bunny Customs. I have to remember, next time my daughter is here, she has a shirt that looks like Gun Bunny Customs. It's a bunny with a gun, and kind of makes me laugh. I love football. Same time Toys has joined us. Okay. The King Beastman 82, Lonzo Wilkins. Oh, Lonzo, I've never seen you here. I've seen you post. You do wonderful customs. I can't say it enough.
We got a custom guy? That's always good. I'm always looking for custom work, buddy.
He's doing customs of people. Like you commission him. He sent you send him the picture. And so post the picture and the figure. Amazing. Just amazing. They're all over Punks with Toy. What the hell is it? I can't even do my Facebook page. Tony, tell what the Facebook page is.
There you go. It's the page with the pictures.
David R is here. Action Figs. One of my moderators has joined us. Did I say I love football? Punk. Why does the classified leatherneck look like me? I think
it's his twin. Man, when I saw that, that's the first thing I thought of. And then you post on Instagram the picture with leather and the dog, so it's like you and Roman. I'm like, there you go. This is it. You should put that on your background. Put it in a box.
I don't think it looks like me, but
come on,
other people do, and hey, who am I?
It's the mustache. It's the mustache, right?
Kenzo's Creation is here. Joe Fan 84. I saw a lot of these guys over there at Yojo Jerk's stream before, so I'm glad people were able to jump on over here. And that's about everyone. Oh, here's my other moderator, Matthew Matson. I'm gonna get you if you get bigger than popping my show. Well, we're not live, so there is that. We're not live, at least not yet. Tony's Figs, Rachel Salinas is here, or shall I say, not Rachel, because that is not Rachel. There's some guy acting as Rachel. All right.
Wait. Wasn't that an issue during the Thanksgiving giveaway? Wasn't that? Didn't he get called and it wasn't Rachel?
No, that was Tony's Figs.
Tony fake. There you go. No. I just remember someone else. No, Tony won.
So okay, so there was Turk Murphy, who's in here right now.
Yeah,
He had his other name in there.
That
and
was
we had
it.
to we had to
Yes.
figure out is it really him? And again, he's actually going to be on the show, I think, next month.
Okay.
I don't know if I am for next month or the month after. I'm trying to get everything all set up. And the way I do it can be kind of confusing. But Tony was the one who I just happened to be on the phone with him before we did the giveaway. And I'm like, "Do you want to go on with me?" I'm like, my worst fear having Tony on, and we talk all the time, was him winning. The chance of him not only winning twice but consecutively.
That was nuts. That was nuts.
I went, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me!" And everyone's like, "The fix is it." I know a lot of people were joking, but some of the people clearly believed it, and there's no way that I could.
But it was still, there was over 200 names on that wheel. So
yes,
that was bananas. Yeah. He should have just
Tony,
went and played Lotto. That's it.
Yeah, Tony did get a Wolverine because he said, "You know what? No."
Yeah.
I'm so glad that Plastic Fantastic was in, and he said, "You know what? Yeah, look at it." Ed coming in saying #rigged. Same time toy.
So I have one of your grenade. Boop, boop, boop.
I gotta send another one out too with the handle.
Yeah, the clip it broke.
All right. So I normally will start off with where does your name come from, like your screen name, but you do not have
my mom name. Well, my mom was a big Adam West fan. That is true. She liked Batman. Yeah, it is true. And I kept that going with my daughter. My daughter's middle name is Harley, so just kept going with it. But she was a big Adam West fan, and that's where that came up, because it's not my dad's name and it's no one else in the family. She's like, "I like Adam West. He was so handsome." I was like, "All right, there you go." So
I do have Christoph Scuba jumping in, same with SCS Dog, and Tony's telling everyone, "F all of y'all." You got the Wolverine. That's what you were hoping to win before you came on air. Yeah. So I'm glad you got it. Now you have to put your own sticker.
That was just so funny. He was like, "No, I'll let this one pass." Because what was it? It was the 4x4 one, right? The Tiger Force.
Yeah, he landed on the Tiger Force 4-wheeler, and he didn't want that.
Nobody does.
But I like it.
It's the colors, man. It's the colors. That's what it is. I have one, but I can't.
But it comes with a great figure.
Yeah.
The wreckage is awesome.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, but it was, he landed on it and he didn't want it. But I said already, you can't take the other thing. The only exceptions that I was gonna make was if the guy that donated the tiger paw to me, if it landed on his name, then he could have had the Wolverine. You know what I mean? Because he donated it to me. So I'm like, I'm not going to give it back to you. I'm like, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, I hope it doesn't land on Tony. No offense, because I have him on, right? And I'm glad. I just asked, I texted my ex a while ago if she's picking up my dog because they were out of town, and she just messaged me back and I said, "You're picking him up tomorrow?" And she said, "Yeah, and giving you back your daughter." Makes me think.
Whoa.
I don't know if she's saying it as a joke or, but I already talked to Olivia, so I already know.
All right.
Okay, so do you mind me asking how old you are?
47. August 4th, 1977. The year Elvis died. R.I.P.
Oh yeah, he's not dead though.
Oh yeah, well, he's not dead. But I always remember that because when I talk to old timers, they always say, when I say 77, they're like, "Oh, Elvis! Oh, Elvis!"
Really? My aunt was a huge Elvis fan. I never got the. I never got the appeal of Elvis. Oddly enough, my daughter is. I don't think she realizes yet. She loves Lilo and Stitch. I don't think she realizes how many Elvis songs are in Lilo and Stitch.
There's a lot. Whenever they do anything in Hawaii, I feel like they always have to throw in some Elvis songs because he did so many films out in Hawaii. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So anyway, all right. So 77, you're in our age range. Where did you grow up at, and what was your family like? Did you have siblings, brothers, sisters, your parents together?
I grew up in Lower Manhattan, so in New York City. That's where I'm from, Lower East Side, LES. From there, we moved to Brooklyn, and I spent majority of my time in Brooklyn. And from there, went to Staten Island. And from there, went to Harlem. and from
Oh,
there off to Queens. I mean, one of my names, and that is another name a lot of people know, is Adam Fiveborough, because of the five boroughs in New York, and I
yeah.
lived in all of them. And then I also, when I worked in New York at the time, I was a field tech for the city of New York. And so I was always on the field. I was traveling around. So I'd look at my phone, like, oh, I got to go so and so. And I was in every borough. So people call me, where are you at now? I'm like, oh, man, I'm in the Bronx now and I'll be back later. So I was always running around. So that was my life. But when it comes to this, when it comes to collecting and stuff,
Let's
it
not
was
get that
old.
far. Let's
Oh,
not get that
all
far.
right. So I'll skip.
Yeah, we gotta start from
I
little
know. All right.
little
All right.
Adam.
So
Little Adam.
little Adam.
But
Little Adam. So
don't
there.
worry. I bounce all over the place, so it's not
Gotcha.
like
All right. So
all right.
let's see. So it's
So
me and my mom,
family,
my dad, they didn't work out. They were young. They got married very
yeah.
young. And so they were like 19 around there. They were big into dancing. It sounds like from a movie, but so my mom was big into dancing. My dad was big into dancing. And there's a Studio 47. They partnered up for a competition, dance competition. And they won some common competition. This is from what my mom said. And then they just kept going to dancing competitions and winning and stuff. And then that's how they started and they met. And I mean, well, they decided to create me and make a life. But 3 years in, my dad was like, this is too much. He wasn't ready for it. He was young. But like I mentioned when we did our interview, he wasn't a deadbeat or anything. He paid child support and stuff. He picked me up on the weekends. We still had a very good relationship. But yeah, it ended that type of life.
So
And
do you have any brothers or sisters?
later on, I wound up getting way too many. So my dad remarried.
Wait.
And oh yeah, my dad. And no, if they're listening, I love you guys all. I can't remember all your names, but listen, my dad remarried.
Wait.
And
You can't remember all your siblings' names?
there's a lot. I get some of them mixed up, and that's a shame. I see them. I saw them about a year ago. I went and I tried to reunite with someone because I think there's a total of 8 on one side, and
Tony,
yeah. So
Tony, this guy's beating your dad.
yeah. But here's the thing. So my dad remarried, and she came into the marriage with 2 children. Right.
Okay.
Those 2, I remember one of their names. Right. So anyway, then every year there was another one and another one, and it was like every year. So if I remember, Jalissa, Geneva, yeah, there was like 6 or 7 plus the other 2 that she already had. And then my mom remarried, and he came into the relationship with 3, and then they had their own, which is my brother Josh. So yeah, so I got 4 there and about 8 on the other side. It's a lot.
Oh man.
So I'm looking like 11, 12, something like that. I'm sure I'm probably missing someone. That's why I don't even bother with all the names. And then some of them had nicknames that I remembered them from. And they're like, I don't go by that name anymore. And I'm like, oh, my bad. I don't know your official name. But, and it was one of those things. So then as I got older, it was getting difficult to spend time with my dad. Yeah, go ahead. It's true. It was sad.
Well, no. This is Tony. His dad had 7 kids.
With the same with a one woman, or was he bouncing around?
Oh no. What, like 4 different women, Tony?
Oh, you
3
see.
or 4, I think. 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
Like,
See?
there's a shitload of them. It's funny to talk to him about it.
Well, Tony, we'll start our own show where we just try to gather all our siblings and have like interventions and be like, "Do you remember me? Do you remember me?" They're like, "No," and maybe somebody will cry. Oh, I was at a brother, because most of them are sisters. That's the other thing. There's no boys. All of them are sisters, right? Except the ones. Oh man, I think his name was Ricky. Sorry, Ricky. She came in with a son, Ricky, but then all the other ones that they produced together were all girls. And so I'm technically his only biological son. So it's one of those things. I still talk to him, and my sisters, whenever I go into town, I'll see them, and I'll try to get some of them moved to Boston. And then I think I have one living in Illinois. She's a school teacher or something like that.
And you know their names? Like, which ones do you know?
The ones that I'm close with is Geneva, Jalissa, and those 2 I send emails all the time, right? And messages and stuff. We talk. And Damaris, if she listens, I gotta give a shout out to Damaris. Yes, there we go. Then on with my mom, my stepdad, and all that, my sister Tara, we're close. We talk, and So that's the closest one there. And then of course the closest out of all my siblings is my younger brother Josh, because we grew up in the same house. There's an 18-year gap. Okay, 18
Oh
years.
wow.
I would walk around with him, and my buddies were like, "Oh shoot, you had a kid?" I'm like, "No." It was like, I didn't know. I mean, this is my little brother. I'm like, "Oh, is that what you're saying now?" But I'm like, "No, it's for real. I'm not ashamed. This is."
You had no built-in play friends as a kid. I would assume.
Nope, just my cousin Manny, who was an only child for a long time until
Okay.
his parents they divorced and his dad remarried and he had a sibling. But same type of thing. It was a big age gap. So when it came to just hanging out with another kid in the family, it was just my cousin Manny, and he would come
All right.
over and we would play with toys and stuff.
So okay, not like the first toys you fell in love with, but do you remember like the first toys that you can remember playing with? And what I mean by that is, I feel like a lot of people in our age bracket, it's like Hot Wheels, Matchbox, the Little People, or adventure
I
adventure.
already know. I already know.
So
It's little green army men that you would get at the pharmacy.
No, I don't believe.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I
That was
love
it.
those.
That was it, because I remember all the time when I would go to the store or something, they were on that little spinny rack and they were cheap. They were like $1. So my mom, whenever I would look, was like, "Oh, I want a toy." She was just, "Hey, just grab this." And you get a baggy of little green men, and then there's a lot of military men in my family. She has 3 brothers and 2 of them served. And one of them was
Okay.
like a lifer, and he retired as a major second degree, some high class. I still talk to him, but I forgot his title. But the point is, there was always military people around, so it
Okay.
was a big part of my life. And I would see this, I'm like, "Oh, this is Uncle Rich, and this is Uncle Danny," and and that was it. And when they would come back, especially my Uncle Rich, he was always stationed overseas, and he was stationed in Germany for like 15, 20 years. And I remember he gave me a medal, and I was like, "What's this?" And he's like, "Oh, I got this medal for something." And I remember walking around with this big medal hanging off my chest, like so. But that's why when you say that, what doesn't come to you, I just think of those little classic green men.
That's exactly what I want. Was it for like the first things you remember? Hold on 1 second.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
That's Jay McMahon.
Yes, Mr. Wonderful with the $4.99 super chat. How much punk would a punk if a punk could punk? Travis is always trying to be cute and funny. for $4.99, he's funny.
There we go. Oh, speaking of that, because that's the first wrestling reference. I'm wearing my John Cena explosion.
Oh yeah, you got the
yes, let's go, Cena.
No, funny thing about that is that not this guy Travis, but the other guy Travis, Mr. Wonderful. He was like splooging all over the place when he saw that.
He's not alone, man. Once this went live, click, pre-order, get it now, fast shipping. I had to get it because even on the back, it's got like the whole card.
Yeah,
it's all the different versions. I'm not a big John Cena fan of Mark. I like him; he's all right. But man, when I saw this, it brings that combination of my love for G.I. Joe and the old explosion backgrounds, and then to see him like this, I'm like, oh man.
I'm not a huge Cena fan as a wrestler, but I really appreciate the full circle where he's done, where he talks about how he used to call The Rock out, and he goes, "I was wrong. Like I kept saying, if you love wrestling so much, why aren't you here? Well, now I'm that person, And to see somebody do full circle and realize, like Shawn Michaels is a perfect example, right? The guy was a total piece of shit.
Yeah,
when he was younger, yet greatest wrestler ever, way better than Bret Hart.
Controversy. But yeah, he was definitely up there. He was definitely good.
Yeah. So I respect, and I think his movies are funny. I think he's a good actor for what he does. He's able to make fun of himself.
Peacemaker is my favorite, and that's just a TV show. That wasn't even a movie.
I'm not even a fan of like James Gunn stuff that much, but we might talk about that later on. All right, so the little army men, green army men, which I loved. I loved the tank that it came with. You know, Storm in the back there. And again, when one got stepped on, he was just a fallen soldier.
Oh, here's a question for you. Did you ever cut off the little plastic stands?
No.
I used to for some of them because I wanted to do different scenes where they were laying down, and you couldn't really do that if you have the plastic stand. It just looked awkward, so I would just cut those
Well,
off so
well,
that way I could have them prone.
they had the two guys. One had the M16 that was laying firing, and then the other one was crawling. That one always drove me nuts because he couldn't do anything.
Hmm.
But I love the German guys. Like, talk about like something politically incorrect that you'll never see those again. The German ones with the German grenades, and they always had the submachine gun. Like, wow, we're really leading into World War II there.
Yeah. Hey, you got to recreate, man. You got to be accurate. So I'm all for it. You know.
It's just good that it like none of them came with like a furnace and stuff.
Oh, yeah. That would have been, or maybe you get a little Volkswagen, a little bug like you come around.
All right, so you remember that? Now, again, we all had I had Adventure People, I had a Lone Ranger and Tonto. I actually still have my original Lone Ranger and Tonto. Do you remember like the first toys you fell in love with? I know a lot of it was Star Wars. You would have been ripe in that age, but
no. The first toy, oh man, it's a toss up because it's either the G.I. Joe's or He-Man. Because I was really also into He-Man. It was something about that. I mean, at the time. I mean, it was all around us. We had Schwarzenegger films and Arnold. Everybody all jacked up. I'm big into wrestling, so I'm watching all these guys just exploding. Paul Orndorff. Shout out to Mr. Wonderful there. All the
hey, Mr. Wonderful there, who was a pro wrestler, right? This guy right here, Travis, the guy in the super chat. Mm-hmm. His name, Mr. Wonderful, is not based after the wrestler. I was blown away. I'm like, shut up. I'm like, you're a wrestler. And he's like, I didn't even know who Mr. Wonderful was. But this is the same guy. This is the same guy that thought Star Wars was a spoof off of Spaceballs. I cannot make that shit up.
What? It's a spoof off of Flash Gordon. Everyone knows that. No, I don't know. But that's a whole other conversation too. But it's got to be between those two because that's what always comes. Yeah, I've had little toys here and there. There was other things, Thundercat, all this stuff. I bought them here, but man, when it came to stuff that I had to have in my room or I had to carry in my pockets, till this day, I have cargo pants. I always wear cargo pants and cargo pants shorts because I like to carry a lot of stuff. And that was a joke in my family. Is that whenever I would come over family dinners, get together stuff, they were like, all right, what does Adam have in his pockets now? Because I always carried Joe's, I carried Micro Machines, I carried Muscles, I carried Guts.
I don't remember. I remember the name Guts. I remember Muscleman because I had Muscles. Or Muscles.
I think I have my favorite Guts. One of my boxes. I'll find it. I have one that I always keep on my desk, and I cleaned up my desk and I moved. I didn't want to lose them. Love those things. Love those things because they were like the Green Men, but very detailed and solid. They didn't feel cheap. And they stood on their own. You didn't need to get a stand.
They didn't have a stand or nothing. All right, quickly, once again.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Krusty Old Crow with the Canadian $6.99 super chat saying, I'd rather hear about John Cena than Spider-Man tonight. We will not be talking about the Spider-Man figures tonight.
Nobody wants to talk about Spider-Man figures.
I will be talking about it on Monday because I feel like I have maybe a different take than other people might have. Yet it's a take that people have bitched about for so long. But we'll wait. And Krusty, you already know because I literally talked to you today about it. At least I think we talked about that. I know we talked today.
Talk a lot.
I think we talked about that today. I feel like the people in our age, and obviously the people that are a little bit, yes, Matthew says, you're so maximum Krusty Old Crow. So now, since everyone was so outraged over that maximum Spider-Man, when you're outraged, you're maximum. That's the we determined this on Saturday. When you're mad, when you're outraged, you're maximum.
It's just maximum pissed.
And Krusty Old Crow is maximum about the Spider-Man talk right now. I feel like, again, maybe people that maybe a little bit older than me, I was born in 75, right at the end. It was Star Wars. Like, it started off as Star Wars because you could not go anywhere. And let's be honest, it was amazing. If you're a kid that age, like, it's the spectacle. But once those toys died out, I feel like the big three through the 80s, I don't think many people would argue this, was G.I. Joe, Transformers, and He-Man. There's a lot of other things. Those are the ones that really have seemed to stand the test of time. I know people continue to try and bring Mask back, or they want Mask. It is coming back in some iteration. Jason the Wheeled Warriors. We even have some Eagle Force. Do you remember Eagle Force? Did you ever have those?
But remember, there's one
The
that
little
came
metal
later.
one?
That came later in the 80s that killed them all. Till this day, is dominating. Do you know which one that is?
Turtles?
There you go. Because Turtles is evergreen. It still has new shows coming out, movies.
Well, I disagree with you because I don't think it. I think Transformers is the evergreen of all time. How hard is it to convince a kid, hey, this is a robot that turns into a fucking car?
Yeah,
right?
I get that. But it just doesn't seem
You're right about Turtles.
It doesn't seem to generate the revenue and the other mediums. That's the whole thing. Because I like the last Transformer. You saw that little snippet with the spoiler G.I. Joe card. Remember, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna get a G.I. Joe movie," and then they talked to the producers afterwards. I'm like, "When is this coming?" Like, we don't know. You have a script? We don't have a script. Why'd you do that?
That guy.
Yeah, he's like, we just thought it'd be cool to do that. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah,
and that's why years later there's no Joe movie. So
it goes back to Bonaventure. He's the producer, and that's why you guys don't have a Hooded Cobra Commander. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm not getting into Hooded Cobra Commander. All right. So for you, it was G.I. Joe and He-Man.
The Transformers, my cousin Manny was big into those. Remember, they were the big metal. They were all made of metal, and they were heavy. I cut my hand, I don't know how many times, trying to morph them around and put them in. I'm like, oh, God, what the? It was so sharp. But you could step on them. I mean, you could throw them around. They could take a beating. Those were quality toys.
They would start to get loose after a while, but you're right. They stood the test of time, and they were much easier to transform than the ones today. Because the ones today, when Andrew was young, I remember getting the movie ones, and I remember he had Bumblebee, and then he had
Hot Rod.
No, Hound. Well, he actually does have a Hot Rod. Actually, Hot Rods was sitting over there, but he had Hound, and was it Hound? No,
was that the Mustang for Bumblebee? It was that one ever, or the Charger? Or what was
the Camaro. The Camaro. So he had that. Not Hound. Who was the black truck in Transformers? He's red in the movie. The original one is red.
But he was a big truck. It's a big one. It's one of the like an Optimus.
Well, he's a little bit smaller. He's a big giant pickup truck. But he was a red van, and I can't think of his name. He was my favorite Transformer, so they killed him off. But anyway, I remember Andrew was like, I would transform him, and I said, and after I did it a couple times, I go, I will transform him once a week. I'm not going to do this. You either want him in a car or a robot, because he was so frustrating. They took so long to transform. Ironhide, that's it.
Ironhide.
Someone said Rawhide, but you're wrong. Ironhide.
I saw him in Prime. I think I saw Prime. I was watching Prime for a while. Remember that animated cartoon that they had? I think he was in that one. The Rock was in that one too. He got killed off.
Yeah. Just says the Reach Around podcast is twice as long and uncut.
Oh, that's right. No circumcision here.
And Jeremy Kimberlin is jumping in here. Jeremy, you've been in a lot lately. I love seeing you jumping in here. So you said that, G.I. Joe or Masters. No, why did you gravitate to those toys as a kid? And I don't say collecting, because we were not collecting as kids, right? We were playing with toys. If you were collecting as a kid, then why did your parents hate you? I'm just saying.
Oh, let's see. I guess because I saw them as an upgrade from the Green Men. Since I was playing with the Green Men for so long, I was like, like I said, I used to break off the bottom and stuff, and I would try to do other different things around. I was always doing displays in my room. And that was because there was a spot that I used to go to, a toy store down in Chinatown. And I remember they had nice 2 big windows, display windows, and they would do these amazing set pieces. They would do for the Star Wars toys, of course. We'd see all the planes and everything flying around, the TIE fighters. I'm like, wow, how did they do that? And my uncle, because he was big into comics and toys, so he would take me around. He's like, oh yeah, they use a fishing wire, and then you can, put some little sticky stuff here, as we know, the sticky tack, and stick these guys on here. I'm like, oh wow, I want to do this. So he would babysit me a lot when my mom would work. And so we would position things around in my room. So I got hooked on that. So then when G.I. Joe came around and I started seeing those everywhere, and then my dad was like, oh yeah, it would bring back memories for him because he had the tall ones, the old school ones with the cloth and stuff. So I was like, oh, look, they shrunk them down. So I was like, they still look good though. You want one? I was like, yeah, I want 2. He has to fight someone, right? And the first was Duke. Duke, I was like very plain Jane, but then it reminds me very plain of the Green guys. And I have a Duke hanging up on the wall there, and so it just came to that. And then every time he would pick me up and he would give me my allowance, and we had our routine of things we would go do. And he's like, hey, is there something you want to spend with your allowance? I'm like, yeah, I want to get another Joe. He's like, all right, whatever, let's go. And they were cheap back then. They were like $3-4 or something.
Yeah, under $3.
Yeah, they weren't that
Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. Like now, man, inflation. Look at what, like $24.99. Like it's so crazy when you think about that. But yeah, so I would just pick them up, and then next year, I just set them up. And my mom, I remember one time walking into the room, and she's like, "Where'd you get all these?" I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't see it when you start doing it. Like if I was to turn the camera here, I have this all-out war of my Joes, my Valverse, my Elites, all fighting it out. It's just a mess. People smoking and all kinds of crazy. But I was setting these up in the room, and I didn't really think much of it. And my mom was like, you got so many of these. What did your father do? He's spoiling you. What is all this stuff going on? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I see him on the weekends, and he says I can go spend my own money. Why are you so mad at me? And then I just fake cry, and then she feels bad, and she leaves me alone. And then I would just keep doing it. That's how it worked. I had to do it, but I was, and it carried on from there. And every time I moved, or whenever we moved, I packed all my stuff up and I kept it. And I would try to continue the setup. So that's really what I think it came down to for me. It's just that they had so many different versions. They were smaller. And yes, then now I remember that I really focused on them compared to He-Man, because He-Man, they were big and bulky. And I couldn't do as much with them. They didn't have all the articulation. That was a problem.
No.
And so I was like, I can't do much with this. And I was like, there wasn't that much of a variety. I had Adam, and then I had He-Man, and I had the cat. I'm like, all right, I'm bored. I need more. And throw some other ones. Like, what was it? I'm blanking on the Boa, the G.I. Joe Boa that came with the boxing gloves. Big Boa. I bought 2 of those. I remember one time, just so I can have another set of boxing gloves, so I could set up boxing matches, because he came with boxing gloves. He was the only one that came with boxing gloves.
I've never had him. I mean, I have the classified one. I've never had him.
Yeah. And I checked it every month. I still need to get the classified one, because I do have a Mr. T in the back that I got from the WWE Elite, and he has the gloves and everything. I was like, oh, and I have the Sergeant Slaughter. He came with some gloves. So I was like, oh man, I could have a brawl and people fighting. I have a Roddy Piper, and then I could do another setup and maybe do like a Piper versus Mr. T WrestleMania moment type of thing. That would be fun. I got an extra ring.
Cressio Crow says fake crying has brought more toys than Santa Claus.
It works. I have 2 kids now. I have an 8-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and my son does the fake crying. He gets what he wants, especially with my wife. He'll say something. It's like, no, you can't. Oh man, no. It's like, okay, you'll get that Fortnite skin. Here we go. That's it. Are you happy? Yes, I'm happy.
So again, you were into Motu and G.I. Joe. Now you mentioned Turtles. Now you would have been at an age that I would assume maybe you caught like towards the end of the childhood of playing with toys. Did you get into Turtles? Because I totally missed the whole turtle craze.
I got it. So The show is what pulled me in. I saw the show, and wasn't the comics. Even though I was collecting comics at the time, I was more of Adam Warlock and X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, those type of things. So I didn't read any of the indie, comics at that time, because that's the real people that are all I follow the black and white series, and I didn't do that. I watched the cartoon, I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I remember going to Toys R Us with a buddy of mine and his parents, and we're there walking around, and then I saw a whole bunch of different types of turtles, and then I saw Casey Jones, the vigilante, and all that stuff. Like, oh, these look kind of cool, and they were a good size. They weren't as big as the He-Man, and they weren't as stiff looking. They did have some articulation, not as enough like the G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
but I liked them. I had maybe a handful of them. I had some of the turtles, and I think Shredder, and definitely Casey Jones, and that's it. So no, I didn't go all out on it, but I did go all out when it came to the games, because that arcade machine that's the 1989, and that's, man, when I remember playing it, because that was a 4-player co-op, and I was big into going to arcades and seeing that. I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. So we're playing as any of these turtles.
Is that the 4-player one?
That's the 4-player one.
Oh,
yeah,
that game was fun.
That's what I'm saying. That was fun. So when Arcade 1-Up started making these home ones and they released that one, I was like, I have to have it. I have to get it. And then my kids love playing it. And my daughter, she's really big into turtles, but she likes drawing and all that stuff. And Casey Jones. But yeah, so that was.
Yeah, like that game was fun, because we used to love going and playing. What was the 4-player?
Gauntlet?
Golden Axe.
Golden Axe too.
No, wait. Yeah,
it was
Gauntlet,
with the little.
I'm sorry, Gauntlet. You're right.
That was the top down, where you're running around top down trying to find a key to get to the hole to kill the, and
the Valkyrie would just spin around.
Yeah.
Alex S is jumping in here saying, "Evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well."
Yes.
So you did catch a little bit of the turtles at the. Well, I don't even know if it was the end. So as you start going from elementary school into middle school, are you still playing with toys? Or are you starting to hide them? Because I always say to everyone, I feel like middle school is where you're hiding that you're still playing with toys. And here, years later, we realize we all were still playing with them. Were you hiding it? Did you put them away?
I don't think I was hiding it, but I saw there was a change when Nintendo came around. Because I remember going, it was 1984. And I used to go away to sleepaway camp. My mom would send me away to get out of the city and go to Bear Mountain camp for the summer. And then I remember I came back and my mom was dating this guy who he was well off, this dude. And he was trying to get on my good side. That's usually how it works. Like, oh, my mom likes me. Can you like me too, boy? I'm like, I don't know. What can you do for me? And he did something nice for me. He was like, if you guys of my age know, remember the Wiz? The electronics store. There was Crazy Eddie's, and then there was the Wiz. If anybody knows that in the chat, nobody beats the Wiz.
I don't think we had that here.
Oh, they had a great jingle, right? Like nobody beats the Wiz. Anyway, it was an electronics store. So he was like, I remember him saying, "Is there anything you want for your birthday?" Because my birthday is August 4th. I was away. I celebrated with my bunk mates and stuff. And when I came back, he's like, you let me know if there's something you want. I was like, everybody's talking about this thing, the Nintendo. Nintendo? Where do you get a Nintendo? I was like, the Wiz, the electronic. Like, all right, let's go. We get in the car. So we got in the car and we get to the Wiz, and I'm going. It's like, all right, it's over there. And this is the old one. It came with Duck Hunt, had a gun, and then I was like, that's
Rob the
it.
Robot.
Yeah.
Did you get Rob the Robot?
No, later on, I got Robbie Robot. Got it later on. So I remember clear as day. There's some things that stick in your mind that you'll always remember.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll always remember being so short that I could see like the glass and looking up and pointing like up the top shelf. It probably was like the middle shelf, but for me, it looked like the top shelf.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I still remember those today.
Yeah, so I'm like,
5'4", I still remember those.
You still remember that. I'm 5'10".
Did you get the peanut butter for me, please?
The peanut butter. Right? Oh man! So I remember saying that, and I remember his answer because he got the sales guy, and then the sales guy was like, "All right, what do you want this?" Like, yeah. So how do you play it? Where? And the guy was like, "Well, you have to plug it to the TV." And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna be playing this in the living room?" And I was like, "Well, that's a TV." He's like, all right, come on, what's your TVs? And then he bought me a 13-inch TV to go along with it.
Was it
So
black
that
and
way,
white?
no, it wasn't black and white. It still had all
Oh.
the knobs. It was still color, but it was a 13-inch tube. And I couldn't believe it. And I remember my mom wasn't with us. She was at home with us. This is
Oh, you're
a
damn right she
bonding time.
wasn't with you.
Yeah, she wasn't here.
Or you
Right.
ain't gonna get any of that.
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you, once you get past this, how this really changed my life. Because after we show up, and it's like, all right, I got this Nintendo. And then he's carrying the TV because that was a lot heavier. It's like, what's the
Lot
TV?
heavier.
What is this? It's like, oh, they said it needs its own TV. And it's like, its own TV? Yeah, it needs its own TV. It won't plug into the one in the living room. So, I mean, maybe smart on his end to get me away, so he can spend more time with my mom in the living room. I don't know. But now here it is. I had my own TV and my own Nintendo, in 1984. And my dad worked in electronic wholesales. And until this day, he still does that. And I remember going in telling him, he's like, oh, yeah, how was campus? And I was like, oh, yeah, your mom and boyfriend. Oh, yeah, guess what he got me? Nintendo and a TV. He's like, what? And so he was like, well, we Nintendo, right? He's like, come on. I got all these Nintendo games, Elevator Action, Commando. He was getting me games now. So it shifted from getting toys and getting the Joes to now getting video games. So it wasn't that I was pushing away from it.
Yeah.
But it was more of like things were shifting. And then my friends that would come over to hang out or whatever. And yeah, we played toys, but they didn't care. It then turned into, what games do you have? If not, I'll bring, Metal Gear over and we'll hang out. Or we can go to the local mom and pop rental shop. And for $2, we could rent a game and, hang out. And
I miss renting video games.
Renting anything I miss. Going to an actual location was an event. Remember, it was like, oh, it's Friday. We got the weekend. All right, let's go see what we can get.
I remember a friend of mine, one of the video stores not too far from us. He found a place, and they actually ordered skate videos. So like the actual skate videos, not like
full
fresh. No, it was well before 411. The H Street videos, all the Powell videos, the Santa Cruz videos. So we would go there and rent them. And then you'd always have that one buddy that had the dual VCRs, and he started recording them. But that's how we found like all the H Street videos, the Powell videos, Santa Cruz. Like we go there and rent them, and I don't know why they had them. I don't know how it populated, because that's not something, especially back then, that you would have in the sports section.
There was, all right. So we had in our area, we had Blockbuster. We had Hollywood Video and one called Suncoast. Suncoast had, Suncoast had like boxing and sumo wrestling, random stuff, way before MMA and stuff. It had wrestling, things that you wouldn't see at the other ones. So I'm wondering if that was, maybe if I would have looked, I probably would have found some of those skating ones in there.
Well, this was a mom and pop one. So it makes me think that it was, that maybe they had either a kid or a nephew or someone that
was into it.
Yeah. Because it made no sense. Like, I know it was no one like that I ever met that had him. But that we would go there, and once a week we'd go out there, and if there's a new video that came out, or we continue to rent the same one over and over. That's how we saw a lot of the videos. So we started buying them. Well, I was the guy that had like all the skate videos. I wish I still had them. I got rid of them all, and they actually went up in price on eBay and shit. But I'm like, I don't have a VCR anymore. I might as well get rid of this. I can find it all over on all on YouTube.
Well, that's the thing. Even they're all on YouTube. A lot of people uploaded, and thankfully they've done that. Because there was a lot of old skate videos that I had that are gone.
People like hard media. Not me.
No. But the thing is that eventually it goes bad. I mean, as someone that comes from the gaming space of video games, that's a constant argument. Oh, digital is bad. You got to go physical. Well, we've gone to the point where physical, it doesn't even matter, because your device, your console still needs to connect to the internet to even let you play it. So it doesn't matter you own that game, because as soon as you pop it in, it's like, well, how do we know you didn't bootleg it, buddy? How do we know? You got to connect to the internet. I'm like, well, I'm out in the woods. I don't have internet. I have a generator on my TV and this console. Too bad you can't play it. And not only that, it's not even the whole game. because everything is shipping broken. So you have to connect to get the rest of it or get the patch update to make it work. It's all these things. So it's sad, but the physical is gone. And then, like you said, VHS, that's great, but it's on tape. That degrades over time. So
Yeah,
even
big
if you
time.
try to keep it pristine, that'll go bad. Your player will go bad. The rollers will go bad. You'll look for parts. The parts will be overpriced online. And it's just, yeah, that cycle keeps going.
Yep. All right. So throughout middle school, you were playing video games. Sounds like you still had some toys. Did you get into sports or anything else like that?
Yes. And get ready. I know you're going to be like, no, soccer. Oh, yes. Soccer. I know it. You said it. You don't like it. That's fine. A lot of
Oh,
people
I hate
don't.
soccer.
You hate it. But
I don't dislike soccer. I think it is awful. But
all right.
I also
There
don't
you
have
go.
to watch it or play it, so it's okay.
Yes, it's a big part of my life. For a long time. I mean, I thought I was going to get a scholarship. I went to open tryouts for Cornell and Rutgers, other colleges. I mean, I was a right wing defender. I was really pushing for it. And then senior year, I got hit by a van. It made an
Oh.
illegal U-turn, and I was walking with the girl I was dating at the time, hit us from behind. I was dead pretty much. They brought me back with defibs. I had a collapsed lung, got the big scar on my chest. My arm shattered, the bone popped out. It was a mess.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a mess. Thankfully she was okay because she had her backpack on, and so all her textbooks protected her back. So it just like crushed in. But for me, it sent me flying down. Hairline fracture in my pelvis. At the time when I was in the hospital, I couldn't feel my legs. And my mom came over with my aunt because this was just when Mike Tyson was having his first fight right after prison. He just came out. So a bunch of my family members and my uncle Danny, the military guy that got me in all the wrestling toys, him and his wife were over at our house getting ready to watch the fight. And I was with the girlfriend at the time. We went to drop off some books at her friend's house. And we were walking from there when we got hit. Wow. And yeah, that was a tough time. But I remember when they were like, all right, my right knee was swollen up, and they're like, oh, we'll drain that out. And I was like, no, I don't want to drain it, because at that point I already had talked to coaches and stuff, and I've heard stories of how people's careers ended. And whenever they would have swelling, they would get it drained out, the fluid, but it would also take cartilage. So then next, they can't run anymore. But at the time, in their day, no one knew that. Medicine didn't know that. So they always said, if you ever get injured or you got a big swelling, let it drain out. Walk it off, train it off. Don't drain it. So here it is. I'm in the hospital, all this tubes and all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we'll probably have to drain the knee. And I'm no drain. And don't drain my knee.
So like that's the least of your concern.
Right? That's the least of my concern. But still, I mean, it was such a shock. That's the thing. If anybody in the chat has ever been through a serious injury like that, and it happened like this, quick, like I don't remember getting hit. I just remember waking up in an ambulance and seeing someone with defibs, like, all right, he's back. And they cut my clothes off. I'm like, what happened? They said, don't talk. You got hit by a van. I couldn't believe it. And just my whole life, that whole thing changed for me.
So through high school, you're playing soccer.
Listening to a lot of Guns N' Roses. That was a lot of that type of stuff. Skating. I was a big skateboarder at the time. Also,
we're going to talk about that in a short bit too, because
yeah.
Really interesting in telling me about a few people you knew.
Oh yeah. R.I.P. Yeah.
But
so
were you collecting comic books? Were you still buying any toys?
I was definitely collecting comic books. There was a place, and this is, people could look this up now. It's hopefully still there. On a train line, on the F line, right underneath the train stop, Avenue P, there was a comic shop called Pinocchio. And I was like, oh, perfect, P for Pinocchio. And it was right next to the train. So me and my buddies, I lived on Avenue X. We'd jump on a train, hit a few stops, go down. And yeah, I was still buying comics. Comics was something I was always collecting. Then video games collecting. The Joes slowed down. And I think it wasn't so much that I didn't want to collect them. It's just I didn't like the new series of the cartoons when that came out. That was not what I remembered. I'm like, what is this? The song was a mess. Everyone's goofy. I remember the one time that I remember watching it, and again, stuck in my head memory that I turned it off. I'm like, it was G.I. Joe versus Cobra on the football field, and they were dropping tanks. And I'm like, you should be arresting these guys. You're playing football in a stadium and you're dropping tanks from the sky to help cheat. What is this? What am I watching? This isn't the G.I. Joe I know. I turned it off. I'm like, all right, it's gone. It's gone. This is not it. That upset me. So
there were some things that weren't so good about in my opinion, the later Joes. But again, everything.
I like Metalhead. There was some good takeaways. Metalhead, I feel, was the strongest. I still have him. That classified is awesome. I know some people gripe because he's got the pins on the side for his missiles, and I'm like, oh, they stick out, and you can't. But he looks cool. He looks cool. He comes with a bunch of heads.
It's a figure that's firing rockets off of him. You can't really make him realistic.
Exactly. I was like, it's fine. And then again, here's the thing. I don't really play with them, but I do display them. So I guess that counts as playing. I know if I get bored, I move them around, and I put them in, so.
And again, all the blast effects and everything coming off of them. And so, I mean.
It looks cool. It looks cool. I know you're not a fan of Hasbro's blast effects, but it still looks kind of cool with all of those.
So, those ones are fine. I'm not a fan of the rifle blast effects.
Okay.
I just don't. Some of them look decent. Most of them look awful. They look like lasers. I'm not a big laser guy.
They lack the color at the tip. Yeah. When I look at some of them, it's like they should fade in or show some smoke or something.
I just like the small blast, like the small burst. Vale burst does them really well. So does
I have a few of them.
Well, I think the Operation Monster Force, they're doing good ones. Some of the Hasbro ones are just bad. All right, so you said you were skating. Now, were you still skating or were you still in the scene after you graduated?
After I graduated, yes.
So when did Kids come out?
Kids came out when, let's see, that must have been going into
94, 95?
No.
Was it later?
This is later because I would say probably I was maybe 95, 96. Yeah, 95, 96, around there. Because I remember when that came out, and that was a big deal. Especially from being from New York, and then a lot of people knowing and recognizing certain people because it was an indie film. So
1995.
Yeah, there you go. 1995. It was an indie film, so there was people, especially Washington Square Park. A lot of people would go there. That was the skate spot. It was right in the heart of a NYU area, so it was always filled with people and artsy playing guitar and stuff. It was just a hangout spot. No, that film over exaggerated a lot of things.
I told you I hated that movie.
Yeah. And I told you my reaction, at least my mother's reaction when she saw it, because she was like, is that what you're doing when you go with your buddies? Are you're getting high and having unprotected sex and smashing people in the head with your skateboards? I'm like, no. Well, not in that order, but it's no. But I mean, there's always wild kids. There's always those wild kids, but there wasn't crews of it going out there. And I always remember that one scene because everybody remembers that one scene where Casper's skating, he bumps into a guy. The guy gets real nasty with him, even after he apologizes. And then, Casper picks up his deck and just whacks him on the back of the head, and everyone starts beating and stomping on him. Not going to happen. Would never happen in that park. In fact, I don't think in all my years going there and seeing all kinds of crazies and stuff, never saw a fight or anything break out. For one, it is, like I mentioned, in the heart of the NYU campus. There was always police presence around. And everybody was very cool and chill. It was a spot where people would go and smoke and do stuff. They would drink. People would drink and hang out. And it's like, as long as you weren't disturbing the peace, there was no harm, no foul. And so nothing ever really happened. And so there was that type of stuff. But Harold Hunter, someone that I met later on, he was in there. And we hung on a few times.
You met him later on.
Later on in life.
Okay.
Later on in life, I met him, must have been going into 99. Because, it was right before 2000, around that time. And I met him because I knew where Zoo York and all the guys would skate. And at the time, I was working for Yellow Rat Bastard magazine. I was doing their marketing, and then I was doing interviews and going out there. So I was interviewing rappers and graffiti artists and stuff. And so I knew where they would hang out. And then I saw him. I was like, yo, what's up? I was like, we're looking to put something together for the store and for the magazine, all this stuff. Like, oh, yeah, let's do this. And so we just like sort of like this. Like we started from a work type of thing, just trying to get some. And then we just started hanging out and skating. And he would give me a call. I call him up. There was a few spots we used to go to do some other little stuff. And it just worked out. We became pretty good friends at the time. And he was out there. He had an agent at that time, and he was trying to get into other avenues of business because the owners of Zoo York, and there's documentaries at the wazoo of how they wanted to run it and do things. And there was a lot that the skaters wanted to do and they weren't allowed to do. And one of the things was what I was offering, because they're like, well, we only wear Zoo York merch. And it's like, I get that. But this was just to promote with the magazine. We're not a clothing company. It's like this is separate. No, we can't do it. We're going to pay this guy. This is for him to make some money on it. No. I was like, all right, whatever. So, but we still kept in touch for a while with some other things. And then a few years later, after that, that's when I found out that he had died of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
That was a shame.
Well, it's a shame when anyone does. And it's unfortunate that anything like that can take someone. I mean, people don't realize. And again, I'm the wrong person to talk to when it's like, dude, you've been straight edge your whole life. And it's like, yeah, I mean, but you've seen some of the best people in the world. You don't have to come from a crappy family to get addicted to drugs. No. I'm not going to go down that path.
Yeah. But yeah. So to answer that question, I was like, yeah, I stayed in because then also while I was in college during that time, there was still the 98, 99, all that stuff. And I was working at the magazine. I was, before that, right before I started that, I was working at Blades Boards and Skate. I don't know if you had any one of those. It was like a chain of skate shops. So I was working there, and then we would put together weekend skate trips to the skate parks out in Jersey. There was one called Casino and a few other ones. And I would chaperone and do the trips, and we'd go out there and skate and bring the kids and all that stuff. So it was still part of my life. So then that's why when I after that whole time in school, and then I got the job at the magazine, and they were like, all right, this is what we're going for. This is the vibe. I'm like, all right, let me put these pieces together. Again, just thinking things that were in my life and try to bring them in. And that's how that worked in.
So after you graduated high school, did you go to college, or did you go right into the workforce? Or were you doing both?
I was doing both.
Okay.
I was doing both. Went into college. Went to college in Staten Island.
What did you go to college for?
Computer science. So it was always working with computers. That was another thing that picked up, and that really came because of music. Because I had a buddy of mine who was big into it was like making beats and stuff and engineering, and he worked in the studio, had a lot of equipment. And then after I got hit by the van, and I came into some money, because obviously it was a no fault. I'm walking here. There's that whole I walk in here. Yeah. So, I got some money for that, and helped out the family, and we moved and got a house and all that stuff. But I had some extra money, and I was like, well, I want to invest into doing this. So I've got a computer, and then I got some synthesizers, and I got some other equipment. So I was doing music on the side. So, and that also comes off later on, and I released an album, and that's still out there. But so I did the music, and then I was still doing the magazine, and then I was still doing the schooling, and I was juggling everything at once, and it was a lot. It was a lot. But
sounds like it. I mean, we think we can handle everything as a kid, but to be handling all that, school, an actual job, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it was a combination of like with the school. I remember it was a buddy of mine who was like saying, "Oh, well, this place is there's a mall not too far away from here, so they have the stuff that you can probably find, temporary work." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for just something to make some extra money." And then that's when I saw the skate shop, and one of the first things like, "Hey, can you skate? I was like, yeah, you want me to do an ollie? I mean, yeah, I can skate. What do you want? He's like, oh, you could talk about, yeah, all right, good. Then you could help sell this stuff, and then I also did inline skating. So they had a bunch of skates and a bunch of that type of stuff. So I was familiar with all of this, and it worked out. And then while I was doing that, then at the college they had a career center, and they were like, oh, we'll do placement. And I did music also, like I said. So then I worked at Columbia Records as an intern. And while I was there as an intern, there, that's when I met someone else there, and they were telling me about Yellow Rat Bastard, which was a clothing store, but they were starting a magazine. Right now, the clothing store was not its own brand. It sold Echo and Mecca and all these other brands. That's why that whole thing with Zoo York, we even carried some Zoo York stuff. So I was like, it's not a competing brand. But that was the owner owned a bunch of stores, and he was a big buyer of Mark Echo's clothing. Echo, if you ever seen Echo Unite Unlimited and stuff. So he decided he wanted to do this store that was designed like a city street, like it had like steam coming from the grids on the ground, and there was each section looked like a movie theater or a bodega or something, and then they would sell the clothes and stuff. So Mark Echo designed the store. I interviewed Mark Echo also. That was one of the things I did for the site. So he was like, oh yeah, they're starting this magazine and trying to get off the ground, and they're looking for people that are just, I mean, a lot of my friends, even on that's the other thing, another show that I do, the Throwdown show that I'm on. And then they always refer me as the guy that was the street kid, because I was always out there. I wasn't doing bad stuff, but I was just always out. See, I was that guy going everywhere. Like I just said, doing all these different jobs. So when he told me about this, I'm like, oh, let me talk to them. He's like, all right, they're out of Brooklyn. I'll let them know you're coming in. I didn't even know what I was gonna do. I said, I just want to help. I want to be part of this. I'm like, oh, all right, you like to talk? You can go in. We'll give you a Rolodex of people you can call and talk and meet in person. This and that. And then there's a lot of it's like wheeling dealing. It turned into business, because let's say I go to a record label, and I was like, oh, hey, we want to get some advertising. We want to help promote. And it's like, all right, well, what can you do for me? We have this artist over here. Can you do a cover piece on him? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like, yeah. And they didn't know who to send. And I was, I'll do it. I'll interview. And I grabbed the tape recorder. I was like, let's go. Poof. Next, Cypress Hill, and there was another guy, Tony Touch. There was a Mos Def. There's like all these other like people in that world. And it was fun. It was just crazy to do that. And then of course that's when I would just reach out to different people. And most of the time, once you would tell them and you're confident about what you want to do and what you're trying to do, and they're like, all right, well, let's work. Let's figure this out. You're legit. You want to make something work here. You're not just going to waste my time. And that was the whole point. Like even now, like when we were doing all this stuff, it's like I didn't say, oh well, let's try to put this little show together and see what happens. I'm put the background. I made a custom sound, intro song. I got an artist. I'm doing everything possible to just make it the best. So then that way it does gather an interest, because people can see that. They could see if there's some time and some effort, and then they could appreciate it. And we are putting in our time, whether it's just that 1 hour, you're doing this right now, doing your multiple hours. If I'm not here, I was in the chat doing the same thing like everybody else. Hi, but we appreciate it. We appreciate you taking the time to do this and to have these discussions, whether it's to bring back memory lane for a lot of us, or just to know that there's others out there like us still around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do see the people that put time into it. Now, obviously, I don't put a lot of time into the backgrounds and the design. That is never going to be my forte, right? I'm too busy with my full-time job and raising my own kids, and obviously, I put content out like crazy, but that's what I focus on, right?
Well, most of the time, it's not even the person doing all that, because I do know some people that have high inspiration. They're like, oh, I don't do that. It's like I pay some guy to do all that stuff for me. I'd spend like $500-$600.
I was thinking about it today, and I was like, it would be a lot easier to just record all my reviews and then have somebody else edit it. But I don't do that. YouTube doesn't pay me enough to do that. Mm-hmm. Contrary to what the jokes are that I have YouTube money.
Believe me, we know. I've heard all kinds of stuff. It's like, oh, you got all this money. Oh, you get all this. I was like, yes, I'm a king. You're right. Then why am I here? Why do I need to do this? You know what? You're right. Let's turn this shit off. I made enough. I'm good.
Yeah. And with all that said, before anyone says anything, I am happy with what I do make. It's able to support this hobby that I do. Um, but it's not like you said. Kenzo said, "Big
Yeah,
baller punk." Yeah, I wish.
Red Bay Bowl of Punk, right? That's it. A year later, we'll see the background change. It's just you like holding up money, like yes, and that's
I'll,
it.
I'll be doing like 2 of my own reviews, and I'll have other people doing like my guest reviewers.
Yeah.
I
mean,
just pay people.
people get attacked for these things. I mean, I don't. We talked about. I guess I can. Kyle, right? We've sort of Kyle Peterson, right? So, he's open about all this stuff because he buys everything and he does all this stuff, and people always in the comments. It never fails. It doesn't matter what he's reviewing. It's like, how can you afford all this? How can you do this? And it's years of collecting. And yes, he spends a lot of his own money, which is why he's going hard on his channel to try to recoup as much. But at some point, then he's come clean. You're always going to be in the red. Especially when certain items are coming in big. But recently he bought that remember that the Thundercats set that they released? Yeah, the Cat's Lair, and it's like these things
that was $750. After shipping and handling, that was $750.
And if I recall, he said he had 2. He had one open for review, and he always has to have one in box. Like that's the other thing when he says that he has to have one for display and one for box. And then he did his whole showroom to look at that. And he couldn't understand why people were like coming after him saying stuff. I was like, I think it's more of it seems extreme. You know what I mean? It's like it's one thing to collect. We all collect. It's fine. No shame in that. But when you have to have things mock, and for what reason? Enjoy your toys, right? That's the talk. Enjoy it. Put them on. It doesn't to have a whole collection just in a box and then a whole other set just to play with. Who are you saving those for? Who are they for?
I'm with you. There's not a lot of people, and there's some people that buy, the 2 of them. Some people buy 3. They're in my chat. Most of everyone is open. They're openers because they're doing customs. They're doing displays and stuff like that. Photography. I can understand keeping some stuff maybe, but I'm with you. Again, for me, I'm gonna live once. My kids don't care, and these are not the toys from the 80s. Like everyone thinks that they're gonna. Everyone that's not in this community thinks they're worth money, and I'm so tired of seeing like on the Joe Facebook page, just like how much you think this stuff is going to be worth. Like
you can't think that way. You can't think that way about
this. Go
this.
Invest in crypto if you're going to invest your money right now. Okay, don't buy fucking toys. All right,
toys is not. Don't let the companies fool you when they start throwing limited, special edition, ultimate collector model, and it's like, to who? Only the people that care, and the people that care, surprise, surprise, already bought one. Because they care,
I have some toys. I have some of the figures that are worth more than what they were. There's a lot more that I have that are worth less than what I paid. Mm-hmm. That's not why I bought them.
No, exactly.
I bought them to enjoy them and do my reviews and display them, and then I get into photography. And as shitty as my photography is, I enjoy it, and it's fun.
So one of the things, and we'll get to it, but just because it ties in now. So one of the main things besides Joe's I collect is the WWE Elite figures, right? Now these, every once in a while, they do fluctuate in price, whether unboxed or boxed, because wrestlers pass away, they leave promotions, it could be the last time, and people panic. So then, like I have some CM Punks, and for 10 years or so, he was not in WWE. So there was no WWE figures, and he wasn't in AEW. So the only fig you can get were these older ones, and you were seeing them for 70, 80, maybe $100 if it was still in a box and stuff. And sure enough, you look in the sold section, people are buying, and even higher because it's supply and demand. Demand was low. And if you're new to collecting or you want to get that whole vibe and you're like, I need a Punk in my collection. Well, this is the only way you were going to get it. That's the only time these type of things really fluctuate like that. But if someone says, oh, yeah, I want to start collecting so that way I have a college fund ready for my kids. No.
And now if you want an actual really good Punk in your collection, you can go get Leatherneck. Fuck CM Punk and his trying to exploit and make straight edge like a fucking Don't even get me started.
He had his own
I
thing.
got started on my
Straight
own.
Edge
All right,
was
I started on my own.
There we go. But come on now. Punk's your name. I'm sure people have brought it up. They're like, oh, you must be a CM Punk fan.
No, because everyone knows I fucking hate him. I honestly, like, I grew up, I'm straight edge. Like, it's just who I am.
That's fine.
Right? I don't wear Budweiser shirts. I don't wear like Marlboro shirts. I don't like seeing people fucking drinking a beer wearing fucking shirts with X's on them or saying straight edge.
He did that? I don't know.
It pisses. Well, no, his shirts. You ever see his shirts?
Oh, yeah.
Those X's on the fucking hands. Let me tell you something. Those guys that used to put X's on their fucking hands would beat the living shit out of that guy. All right, the Courage Crew. Like, now I'm getting fucking like. But to me, it's a fucking, like, that is a way of life, and for someone to exploit it and try and fucking commercialize it, and I think what hit me was I saw someone one day, I didn't know it was a CM Punk shirt. So, oh, hey, you're straight edge. Like, here's this connection, right? Again, it kind of goes to like people that wear skateboarding stuff that have nothing to do with skateboarding. You do have to kind of take yourself away from it a little bit, because my son still wears it, but I'm like, well, you know, you're kind of grandfathered in because of your father, you know. But it pisses me off, because you see someone that's smoking a cigarette and they have this, you know, this fucking, you know, the CM Punk, it says straight edge or it has the X's. Like, that fucking meant something.
Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't really talked about it now, but I'm sure he still claims the straight edge, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. And I'm not saying he's not, but I don't know.
I get it. It's your thing. It's all right. It's all
not
right.
my thing. It's just
no. It's your thing, because you're a straight edge and it's a trigger for you. You know, I get it.
I'm not wearing pot stuff. I don't. You would never catch me in that, because it's not who I am. I also hate people that wear fucking MMA shit that don't do MMA or even follow it. And I used to watch it, but I'm never going to wear MMA stuff because I didn't do it. Then people say, well, what about wrestling? I go, well, wrestling is, again, they're both entertainment, but I don't know why I'm able to draw two different things.
So what about, I mean, like, my thing when it comes to something like that, gripes, is like band shirts. To see someone wear a certain shirt and it's like, oh, wow, you're a fan of Morbid Angel. And they're like, what? It's like, well, your shirt. It's like, oh, I just thought it looked cool. I was like, you don't, that bothers me, you know, because it's it's like, if you're going to support a band, you can't, you're like, oh, the artwork's cool. It's like, yeah, but it's a band. They have music. They have a story. There's messaging. I mean, we see a lot of that.
The Misfits.
The Misfits,
man, because they like the
Misfits,
bars.
yeah, with this, yeah. We get a lot of that, you know. The
I'm that
Ramones,
goes along
all the time,
again,
all the time.
When someone says something about wrestling, and like, but you don't wrestle. I'm like, I guess because I look at it more of like a TV show.
Well, it is a TV show.
It is.
It's a male soap opera.
But again, people say the same thing about MMA, and I'm like, I guess if you like it, but for a while, everyone had to tap out.
Oh yeah. So I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Renzo Gracie Academy over on 29th Street. So that was a thing, and there was GSP and Frankie Edgar and all these other people that were there. So it was a big part, and I was there for about 3 years. You know, training and stuff. So I did do that. But yeah, in the early days of Tap Out, it was funny because Mask, who started and eventually he passed away in a car accident, but there was no brand. That was the first, you know, and that's why he created, because he was going to events and stuff and there was no clothes for it. So he made that. And then all these other brands started popping up. Yeah. And then after he died, the other two members, they sold it off. And I actually think WWE now owns it. So.
Well, they don't own shit because they're owned by.
Well, yeah, that group now owns it, but at the time before they owned it, because I remember seeing like John Cena wearing Tap Out stuff commercials. I'm like, oh, either a partnership or you did something.
If anyone would know it.
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
Mr. Wonderful would probably know for sure.
Yeah.
Again, the band thing, like, you're never gonna see me wear a band shirt of somebody that I don't listen to. Like Iron Maiden, like, oh, hey, you like Iron Maiden? I'm not a huge Iron Maiden fan. I'm never gonna wear an Iron Maiden shirt. And
you can't.
Like, I just think it looks really cool, and you're like,
you can't do that. That's a no-no. Because then what? Then when someone, let's say someone is a diehard Iron Maiden fan, it's like, oh, did you see them last year when they went on tour? And what's your favorite song? Well, you got nothing to say.
It's weird because like my son wears skate shoes. He wears Etnies. He really likes them, and he doesn't care for skateboarding. And I'm like, if anyone ever said, oh, you're a skateboarder, you say no. And if they call you a poser, you can say, listen, my dad has put in the years for anyone. And so like, if somebody was like, let's say Iron Maiden, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't listen to Iron Maiden. You're like, oh, really? Why do you wear that? And he's like, well, my dad's a promoter and knows them, and I really like them. Like, okay, you're kind of like grandfathered in. I know I have these weird idiosyncrasies. How you say it? Again, I'm not saying it's right or
no. I get you.
Normal, but
but here's my question. Because you just told your age right there. Do kids even say posters anymore? Like, is that a thing?
Oh yeah, I hear
they do.
I hear poser on all kinds of things. It's not skateboarding.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's like you remember growing up. That was a big part of a lot of things. Like especially with skateboarding, because a lot of people would get into the clothing, and then I was like, let me see your deck, and it wasn't to see what type of deck. I wanted to see the damage on the deck.
Yeah.
If I didn't see anywhere on the tear or on the belly or on the tip, I'm like. If it looked too clean, and there was a bunch of them, I remember people would come to skate and hang out, and then it's like they would drive up, and a bunch of guys get out, and everyone's tearing it up, and there's one guy just all decked out with this stuff, and I'm like, "What's with him?" He's like, "Oh, he's our buddy. He just likes to hang out, and he's our ride, so we don't care. He's driving us here."
Had the one. We all had that one.
We all had the one.
We had the money for gas.
Exactly. He was like, "Yo, he's a ride. He doesn't care." And then, sure enough, he's like, "Hey, anybody want pizza?" Like, yeah. We'll take a slice. Thanks. Like, I'll be right back. So yeah, we're not gonna get on him.
I have to say, like, with skateboarding, and the whole poser thing, I came to really hate that term. Because I realized, and I was a big culprit of it. I came to realize, like, we discouraged so many people that wanted to learn, but were intimidated being around all these other people that they never skated. And instead of just giving them the encouragement, and again, I think this all comes with age, right?
It's gatekeeping.
Like,
yeah.
It's gatekeeping, exactly.
Yeah,
and again, I was part of it, right? And I think as you get older, and again, I really hate that because, and again, there are those people that are just there and they buy everything. And you're like, dude, ride the board.
Yeah.
But sometimes you look back and you're like, man, you were intimidating them because you're all good, and you're all good skaters, and to them, you're really good. So there's even that, and rather than going up and going, hey, you need any help? Come on, dude, like, skate with us. We all started somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the whole YouTube thing, like, everyone started somewhere. So
I had some buddies that were really into that, but the gatekeeping, but they had a reason. And their reason would be based off of the youth. So if it was a young kid coming over, and at this time, during this session, we were just senior year, 18, 17, 18, we're getting into that. And we're seeing these younger kids come over. Hey, where you guys going? You're going to this spot where, oh, can we come along? No. And it's mainly because they were younger kids, and he just didn't want to feel responsible that if they get hurt or something, what's going to happen? The parents are going to blame us, or if the cops show up, they're going to be, because most of the time we're skating spots we're not supposed to be skating. It's on a Sunday. We're going to this office building location to jump some stairs, and work on the ledges there. We're not supposed to be there. These tag along kids that we don't know want to come along, but we don't.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, so that was his whole thing, but most of the time it's like, all right, whatever. If you want to skate, you skate. I don't own this space.
Yeah, and like I don't think I ever tried to discourage, but I also don't think I ever was, again, with age comes everything. I'm one of the most open people when it comes to YouTube. When I see people that are getting into it and they're friends of mine, I'll reach out and say, hey, can I give you a little bit of advice? Because why the hell, if you start doing YouTube, right, and you're enjoying it, But I'm watching you make this mistake that every single person that does YouTube that talks about it is saying this is a big mistake. Just because it took me 6 months to figure it out, or 12 months, a year, whatever, doesn't mean that you have to sit there and struggle too. I like. I think it's up to you to be like, hey, you're a friend of mine. Can I give you some advice? This thing that you're doing, I used to do the same thing, and I've watched. Why don't you try it like this? It make things a lot easier. If they want to try it, they want to try it. If they don't, maybe it doesn't work for them. But why make somebody sit there and figure it out on their own, and find out about it 8 months later when you knew it all all along?
Yeah.
And then you're not one of those people that's like, oh yeah, I knew you were doing that wrong. Well, why didn't the fuck you say anything?
And usually it's because they are a victim of that. They're like, well, nobody helped me. And I was like, well, it doesn't mean you have to repeat the pattern. It's like, if you know, you can just nip it right now. I'm like, hey, do it this way.
And it is different when people won't even try. That's one of my that's one of my biggest beefs, when people won't even try. Like the G.I. Joe Facebook groups, like they just go in there, they ask questions, like fucking Google it first. Look around first before you start asking the goddamn question and filling up. Okay.
Well, you see it all the time on Reddit. It never fails. But that argument is something that's for the test of time. As long as the internet, from past and present, you'll see it all, especially on Reddit. Let's say it's how to fix something. Like, hey, anybody have this problem? It's like, yes. Did you even search here first before asking this question? Just search. There is a search button. Just type it in and search. Why do you have to create a new thread? And then, of course, there's someone that's nice. I'm like, here's a thread from 2 years ago. Here it is. This is how you fix this issue.
And my son doesn't understand that. He's like, I don't know what to look for. You type in one thing, and then you read, you're like, no, this isn't. What's a better way? And then after a while, now if you can't find anything, then sure, ask people. But go out there and try and do things on your own. Okay,
There we go. It's a different.
I have high blood pressure. I'm not even on steroids today, guys.
Oh damn, he's not juicing. This is normal punk. Oh damn.
All right, so you are going to school. You're working at this magazine. Do you graduate from college?
Later on, yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I got through it. Not there, but elsewhere. But yeah, I definitely got through it. But it took a lot longer. There was a lot going on because, I mean, just to combine that and sort of for the personal thing I mentioned, that I was in a relationship that wound up getting married. That didn't work out. I think I went off camera. Do you hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, I don't know. On my end, it said something like,
no, you're fine.
Yeah. Anyway, that didn't work, and then I was like, but at this point, it's like I knew a good amount of networking, and I knew a good amount of people, so it helped out. And then I started working for a company in Midtown, doing network setups for companies. So we were just that team that would go in. It's like, hey, we're moving our office to this place, point A, point B. So we would go there, set everything up for them, and then that's what we did. So I started doing that, and then eventually I met somebody else who worked for the city of New York, and they were like, hey, they're looking for techs, and poof, went in there, and then I got a certification that I needed, and then the rest is history from there. I was there for 10 years.
Now, are you collecting anything at this time? Like, are you collecting toys, or are you collecting anything?
I do. I am I'm still collecting my elites, but not to the point that I used to, because there's only so many Hulk Hogans you can have, before you're like, all right, wait, why do I have this one? Well, this one had a red t-shirt and the other one was yellow. I was like, no, that's not enough of a difference. But definitely for my Joes, I just like the fact that they have all.
No, I'm talking about not right now, but I'm talking about, is it like at that point in your life?
Oh, in that point.
Are you collecting anything? Yeah.
Oh, in that point, am I collecting anything? That's a good question. Was I collecting anything?
Like, did you always collect comics? Did you stop?
I stopped. I definitely stopped the comics.
Because you seem like a collector. Like, it seems like you always have to be collecting something. And I never realized that I was, but I've always been. It was DVDs.
Oh yeah. Oh no. So DVDs it was VHS. VHS, I had a thing where I would go whenever I saw mom and pop shop, I would always go in. Why? Because they always had a section for sale for like $5, under $5 movies. I found some really good movies: The Crow, Tombstone, Escape from New York. I found these really old ones that I used to like. These movies that would always be on TV, The Warriors, and I would get them cheap. So I would always go around and try to find. So I was collecting that. Then eventually DVDs came out. Then I would get some DVDs, collect DVDs. But I guess one thing that stayed collecting all the way from that 1984 is video games. I used to have stacks. Like what you see with the figs used to be just games. Just games. I had games even when I met my wife when she came over. I had stacks of Xbox games, PlayStation games, physical. I would always collect the games. So yeah, so I was collecting. I was always.
You have Warriors.
The Warriors, yes. You like the Warriors? The game or the movie? Both of them.
I never played the game. I never seen the movie. I mean, I knew it, and that was one of the movies.
Seen?
No, I have, because it was one of the movies that Matthew and I did with Punks on Film.
There you go. Yeah, it's Swan, man. He's the best badass of them all, man. I love that movie. And I think the main reason why I love that movie so much is because of the part of Brooklyn, because I lived in the Sheepshead Bay area, and that was just, I would get off on Avenue X, then there's Neptune, 8th Street, and then Stillwell Avenue. So right there, that was my high school. Abraham Lincoln High School was literally a few blocks away from the beach and the boardwalk in Brooklyn for Coney Island. So when I watched the Warriors and I would see them, it's like, oh, we're working to get back to Coney. And I was like, I know this area. That's my area. You're trying to come here? I mean, that movie wouldn't fly now because everybody has cell phones. So you would just call, for help.
I still have a hard time believing that the streets are that dead in New York, even back then.
So even back then, I don't know. Because, that was what, 1979 or something like that when that came out.
But no spoiler, there is a scene in Reacher that the street is completely dead.
Yeah, but at least they explain it. They explain it. They try to justify it. Yeah, probably not. Like that's the thing, especially with the one when in the part of the Warriors when they get out from the train station and you see the Fury, the baseball guys.
Yeah.
Right. So that's 71st Continental. That's 72nd Street. That's on the west side. That is a bustling area. Like there's stores all around there. It was a great papaya. It's probably still there, 24/7 open. There's always stuff. I've never seen that area empty. So that was unbelievable. Also that run to the park, that's not even a thing. They're nowhere near it. They cut to something else.
I think New York's different because New York, LA, Chicago, there's so many shows that are filmed there. So you see it. But I know
or you think they're filmed there.
Well, no, okay.
There's so many
movies that are filmed about being in those cities as well. Okay,
yeah.
Where there's not a lot in Michigan, but recently, I don't know if you ever watched the show Justified.
I used to. I remember Justified.
I love that show. One of the best shows ever. They came back with a one season where he comes up to Michigan. He comes up, and it's all the whole season is based in Michigan. And they did such a good job of when they went to locations, whether they were on actual location or not, explaining where it was. Where there was, I think in the first or second episode, there's the SWAT go in and they're like, they say what city it is and they're like, 40 minutes outside of Detroit. I'm like, they nailed it. Because, people don't realize.
Were they on location? Like, did you recognize the streets?
I recognized a lot of them because they went into a lot of stuff. Like, I believe they went into like Lafayette, Coney Island and stuff. He goes up to Detroit, I believe, in one of the other seasons. And he goes up to talk to the mob bosses. And the one guy's talking about Tim Hortons. And he's like, they're like, I don't know what Tim Hortons is. He's like, oh my God, he starts explaining it. So people that are from the north know what Tim Hortons. Do you have Tim Hortons where you're at?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so Tim Hortons, all it is a donut shop. It's a donut and coffee shop.
No.
Tim Horton was a defenseman, hockey defenseman, so it's out of Canada.
Okay.
So places like Boston is obviously, filled with, Dunkin' Donuts. But everyone from New York, they
love
know
Dunkins.
it. Obviously Michigan, Wisconsin, all the people up north know what Tim Hortons are, and they're slowly migrating their way down. But when he was talking about it, I was like, they nailed it, because not everyone. I talked to these people, like you talk to people and they're like, "What the hell's Tim Hortons?" And you're like, "Oh my god, they have this thing called an ice cappuccino, and it is liquid crack." Someone found a way to make a chocolate shake a breakfast item. But yeah, so I love that. Like when you actually see things that make sense, and you would see actual location spots. Like I know exactly where that's at. Beverly Hills Cop. Even to this day, I watch the beginning of it when he's in Detroit. And like, you can see some of the buildings, and you're like, fuck, that building is still sitting there decrepit.
Did you see the new one when he did Axel?
Did.
You liked it?
I did. I thought it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it went back to that old feel, but it was funny. I did read comments from people, and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't seem right. This looks dated." I was like, "You're not appreciating what they were going for. Then you're missing the point."
Well, I mean, I guess it would be the same thing if people watch Cobra Kai and they're like,
"Oh yeah,
how could Johnny Lawrence not know?" Like, well, that's the whole point. Is this guy's literally taken out of the '80s and dropped in? I said it is.
Oh, it pretty much. Yeah, he didn't know the internet and all this stuff.
He didn't know anything.
Yeah, he explains it though. He explains it. He had a drinking problem for a long time.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows, and I've had people in my family that have a drinking problem, they're pretty much detached from the world. They'll go to work, wherever, they'll come home, they'll drink, and they can't remember what they're doing. So it's somewhat believable when he was like, he doesn't do the internet stuff. And he explains what he does. He's just a labor guy, right? Remember, he was fixing houses, he was installing TVs. He probably wouldn't even know how to program the TV or put any of the devices on it.
And did you finish watching it?
Oh, yes. Okay. We finished the whole thing.
I think at the end, when he talks to Kreese at the end, he pretty much lays everything out. Like when he yells at him, and I'm not going to break down. I'm not going to break down.
Yeah, no spoilers, people. If you haven't watched it,
but he talks to Kreese and he says everything that everything you said, it leads back. Like this guy was just living day to day. Like he was just existing.
Well, it also brought this realization to me. I was like, wait a minute, this whole show is about Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Cobra Kai and it's the thing with Kreese. No, it's Johnny's story from beginning to end, and especially not spoiled, but you know how it ends. This was Johnny's story of someone that what happened to him and how everything fell apart, and then how he just turned his life around and all the ups and downs and all that stuff. But he finally got on the right track. And I was like, wow, I didn't even think about it until just like you mentioned that when he broke down and crying, like this moment, the fact they're doing this for Johnny, the fact that he gets the family and all the other stuff, I mean, it's Johnny.
You know what they missed though? Again, I said we weren't going to do this, but now I'm not. They missed a perfect opportunity to bring Doogie Howser in from How I Met Your Mother and how much he loved William Zabka. He should have had a cameo somewhere. Well, I can't think of his
because
name.
he cameoed on How I Met Your Mother. Yeah. I thought I brought that up too. I brought that up to my daughter. We were watching, but she doesn't see that. But I was like, man, this is the moment because everybody was coming back. We had Daniel's mom came back. She's been gone for a while from the original one. They were bringing people in because.
They did a wonderful job. Matthew and I talked about it numerous times. Joe Fan says, I need to watch Cobra Kai. I lost interest. I don't know how. I mean, if you lost interest, Neil Patrick Harris, thank you. If you lost interest, I gotta say then there's no reason to turn back and watch it because I feel like if you lost interest, you probably you're not really going to enjoy the show. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but
What season did you lose interest? If you could let us know, because I'm curious to see how far he made it.
Sorry, I fell asleep in my chair like an old fart. I don't know if you meant during this show or.
Exactly. It's like you guys are still talking.
Um, King Panther jumping in here. What's up, man? He said, "What's up, Punk?" Yes, here in Chicago, I could see Dark Knight filming in gorgeous downtown. We had the classic Ferris Bueller Day Off filmed in Chicago at Cub Stadium.
A
Yeah,
lot
so
of those Hughes movies, yeah, filmed out there.
and like because I fix copy machines. I've seen because I used to do movies here. I saw the remake of the Red Dawn. I saw all the pictures that had when it was supposed to be Russia, and then it had to be changed because they were
Yeah,
getting along with Russia,
yeah.
so they had to.
Yeah,
They
it
had,
was turned to
they,
Korea, right? Wasn't it
yeah, they changed it to China because they had to be
China?
red. Yeah, so like I saw all the original stuff, but they just changed the logos because they didn't want to change all the colors and shit. I remember looking down because we had the Transformers movie when they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I remember I was fixing the copy and I was looking down. And if you remember in Transformers 3, where they're trying to sneak into Chicago and all of a sudden they start getting attacked, and then Optimus Prime shows up and he shoots me. He's like, "We'll kill them all," and it made no sense because Optimus Prime doesn't talk like that.
Yeah.
I was looking down. I wasn't watching them do the scene, but I was looking down at that whole because like the train. I didn't know what it was till after I saw the movie. But they like the train station's been like the train. Well, it's no longer the train station. It was the old train station that sat there abandoned for years. Ford finally bought it a couple years ago, but they said Michael Bay loved blowing it up because he blew it up in 3 different movies, 2 Transformers movies, and then I think The Island. He blew it up.
I think
But I love that stuff. Like seeing
it's always cool, but then it's all right. So I remember only seeing Law and Order all the time downtown. They were always filming early. I remember one time
that's because there's 84 Law and Orders.
There's so many, and there was one. There was like I remember it was not too far from South Street Seaport, if anybody knows where that is. And there was an empty street, like a little alleyway in the Dunkin' Donuts. So I worked in the area at the time, so I went to Dunkin' Donuts to get coffee. And then when I walk past the alley, I see all the lights, and I see a guy laying on the ground and cameras. I'm like, oh, they're filming like like a murder or whatever. But what's upsetting is when there's a show that's saying it in the title, like so CSI. There was a bunch of spinoffs, right? CSI, there's Vegas. They had CSI New York. And I was always looking for the locations. Yeah, they would do the little flash screens showing locations. But it wasn't until Major Dan, or remember that from Forrest Gump, he was the main detective, whatever that was at CSI. And he was interviewed. And they were like, what's it like filming in New York? And the whole thing's like, oh, we don't film in New York. Everything's done in LA. We go out there for a handful of times to film in certain key spots of walking out of certain buildings or the courthouse. But no, we're filmed entirely, in California.
I think that's what made Law and Order really good is they were all filmed in New York.
Yeah,
I think later on they did one out of New York. But before that, all the Law and Orders, even though I didn't like all of them, they were all filmed in New York. Yeah. So even they would always have run-ins with each other.
Yeah, they got rebooted. I watch it; it's back, and then there's Organized Crime. Both of them, they're from, and they are in New York. You see them when they do the tracking shots, and they make sure to catch the buildings in the background. So it's like we're here, and then it's always good because then you get to see it.
And people know, like if you live in, like when I see something that's it's supposed to be filmed in Michigan and it's not, like the old Home Improvement was supposed to be filmed here in Michigan. It was filmed on a lot, but they never really went to places. But Tim Allen obviously knows everything about it. And he talks about the one episode about the sand dunes. And he said, nope, I told them we are going there to film. We're going to film the episode because people that go to the sand dunes in Michigan, they're going to know if it's not real. So they went there and they filmed an episode there, which makes sense, right? Especially something like a sitcom where you're sitting, like Friends really didn't need to be filmed in New York. They were sitting in a fucking either in their Cheers
wasn't even filmed in Boston. It was filmed.
Cheers didn't leave. They really didn't leave the bar. Same with The Office. The Office didn't need to be in Scranton. Very seldom do they really leave. But that's enough of that.
30 Rock did leave, and they were in New York, and they were actually filmed in that location in 30
yeah,
Rock. So
because
that
that
was
was
smart. Yeah, that was
yeah,
the whole stick. So,
and that made sense because that was basically Saturday Night Live.
yeah.
Okay, so you said you got married and then you got divorced because you said she was crazy. Oh wait a minute, you told me that in personal.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't need to bring that up. She's like, I heard what you said about me on the internet. I'm coming back to haunt you. It's like, oh, great.
So when do you meet your current wife?
It was 2009.
Okay, and you're living in
2009.
are you living in New York?
Yep, we were living in Astoria, Queens, and she
Okay.
was living on one end, and I was on the other end, and we went on a few dates, and then the rest is history. We got married in 2011. Um, my daughter was born later that year, and that was not the reason why we got married, because that's always a thing. I was like, oh wait, the timing. No.
Don't
I
ask that
I
stuff.
proposed beforehand, but we weren't even thinking about that. And then, like I don't know, a few months or maybe a year later, we found out. Then, and she was pregnant. I was like, oh wow, well we have this wedding plan, so we bumped it up a few days because she just wanted to make sure she could still fit in her dress, so we did that, and yeah, that was it. We got married, and we had our first kid, and then it was around 20 at the end of 2014, going to 15, where we decided to leave to move because she's originally from Iowa, and
Okay.
her family's out here and stuff, and it's just living life in the city with kids is not easy. It's not easy at all, for
So you get married, living in New York.
yeah,
You have a kid,
yeah.
and then you decide to move from New York to Iowa.
Yep. And no one believes me. No
I
one
believe you,
believes me.
but
It was, you don't understand. It was such a big, when I would tell people what I was doing, they would laugh. They didn't, no one was like, no, you're not going. What's there for you? What are you going to do? At the time I worked for the city. It's a union job. It's a city job. They're like, why would you give that up to go where, to do what? I said, I got skills. I'll find something. It's just a better life. Like we would come out here to visit her family, and it was like leave it to Beaver. It's like nice houses. Everybody has space. People are nice. Uh,
so what is the culture shock like? Because you're going from a big city
it
to
it was hard
are you in the city? Like, are you in the city, or are you
here or in New York. What's in the city?
there? Well, in New York,
Yeah,
you're always in
yeah,
the
I
city.
was city. Yeah, always in the city. Here, we're a little outside of downtown, so we're not too far.
Okay.
So we still have that life, but it's nowhere near. I mean, our population, it's nothing compared to
Yeah.
over there. So you can walk down the sidewalk and see straight away that there's like for 2 blocks no one else on the sidewalk. So you still feel alone. It didn't hit me. It actually hit me pretty quick. Now that I think about it, it was hard. I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it was because I'm used to, even where we lived in Queens, at the corner of the block there was a Dunkin' Donuts 24/7, a 24/7 Dunkin'. There was a place called King's Deli, also 24/7, and they would deliver. So you want a pastrami sandwich at, I don't know, 2 in the morning with some toilet paper, they would deliver it because yeah, yeah, because you were so close. So I mean, they're not doing big drives. They're like, oh, you're 2 blocks away. All right, we'll be there. You want that 6 pack, just show ID. And this is before, Grubhub and all that stuff started kicking off. We had this other thing called Urban Fetch that was pretty big for a while. And that I'm surprised because they would deliver if you were in a park. If you were in a park, they would deliver stuff to you on a bench. It was amazing. I don't know. Maybe Grubhub can do that now if you put that you're in a park or something.
Probably. I mean, all you have to do is give a pin, and then they know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've never done it, so I'm sure it's not a big deal. People will listen, like, oh,
I don't
we
do
do
that
that all
stuff.
the time.
I
I don't
don't
do it either.
DoorDash. I have a
I don't-
car. I have 2 working legs. I can go there and get it. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
pay the extra.
Well, that's the thing. I don't understand how it's so successful. Because one time I was looking, someone was like, "Oh, yeah, you got to
People are
try it out."
fucking lazy.
Oh, beyond lazy. But then hear this. So it was like they were like, "Oh, it's cheap. They give you all these discounts." So I download the app, and it was like, let's say if I wanted a chicken sandwich from Wendy's, right? We know it's like 7, 8 bucks, whatever it was. But then with the delivery fees and it almost like $24 or something like that. I'm like, I'm not paying this. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, just go pick it up. No, 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 no. I'm not that hungry to spend double the price, almost triple just because I want to deliver.
There are people that do at McDonald's every
Oh yeah.
time, and I'm like, nope. I've ordered it once, and it was because I was at work, and the work vehicle was in the shop, so I didn't have my vehicle. I had to wait for it, and it was the only way I could get food. It's the only time I've door dashed. Now, I think as a kid, we all used to order pizza and have it delivered,
That's different.
which I still don't. I go buy.
What? But that's Americana right there of just getting the pizza guy, the pizza dude, from the burbs.
Yeah,
It's like the pizza
I can get out of the
dude.
house.
Yeah, he's coming.
Maybe the only quiet time that you get. All right,
I
so
love pizza.
you moved to Iowa. Are you collecting toys at this time? Are you
Comics. I went back to collecting comics
okay?
and getting signed comics, and I guess a little bit homesick because I used to go to Midtown Comics a lot, and then there was no comic shops out here, at least not that I
Okay.
could find. And there is one, but it's further out, and it's like, but so I still, of course, I still have my friends, and we're still talking through chats and stuff, and they're like, oh, I went to Midtown, and they were doing some signings, and I got #1 issues of paper and all these different collections. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to be a hound. I'm like, yeah, can you send me one? I'll pay. They were like, oh look, they're selling it on their website. So I'm like, oh, so I would go on Midtown Comics website, and then sure enough, those #1 issue signs or whatever they were doing, whenever there was autograph signings, they weren't auctions. They were just straight up, you can just buy this and you'll get the little certificate and it'll come in the mail. So I was like, oh great. So I got a bunch of those, and I have yeah, I got a good amount of those. So definitely. And then I used to put them up because we had a different house, and in my backdrop I had a nice clear wall. There was no shelf, so I put all my comics up there in frames with the
Okay.
signature and with the little certificates. And then that's when because I also had, I think the other thing is, I see here all this stuff. I had space here. New York, there was no space. We had a small apartment, and even if you wanted to get something big, it was going to be super expensive, way overpriced, not worth it. So that was the other reason of making this move, because there's things that this type of life we couldn't have over there. Just wasn't practical, wasn't a thing. So collecting, actually, even though my wife is against the whole thing, because she's never collected anything like this, so she doesn't understand it.
Crazy enough. I mean, it's not just New York. A friend of mine, she lives in Baltimore, or she lives in Maryland. Not in Baltimore. She lives outside. And when she came here to visit me, and she was like, I have a townhouse, right? And she's like, your townhouse would be, your townhouse, your size would be worth 600,000. And like when I was visiting her like a couple years ago, it's like she's showing me like the map, and she's like, see all these houses? They're all worth like $2 million. I'm like, what?
When
She's
where
like,
we
yeah.
lived in where we lived in Queens, there were crack houses, like literally boarded up, and it said for sale. And we would look them up online, and it was like $2 million. Because the way they see it is, well, you're gonna fix it, and then you
It's
can rent it
property.
out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
property. What does it matter if it's a crack house or whatever? It's all boarded up now. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. So we want to get in on that early. So it's not livable now, but they don't care.
I get these guys talking about delivering pizzas.
See, love
My
it.
my ex's brother, he used to deliver pizzas, and he carried, and
You
his
have to.
actually the day that my son, well, our baby shower for Andrew, one of the guys that he worked with was killed the night before in the parking lot getting ready to leave.
Over pizza, or was it just a robbery trying to get money?
They came up and they shot him. He shot one of them, and the guy made it a few blocks before he had to call. And Kerry was saying, he goes, this guy, he was Vietnam vet, made it through there, and he always said, I'm never going to pull and shoot unless if I know they're going to shoot me. And he goes, the fact that many shots were fired, because they were right outside, like He was just waiting. The fact that there was that many shots fired, he knew exactly what they were going to do. And they were all arrested. Like, there was 3 of them. They were all arrested because he had hollow points and staggered, and I think one hit his leg. So he only made it a few blocks, and then by the time they called, there was nowhere for him to go. Yeah,
So crazy.
crazy. Because when you meet somebody and you can't spell her last name because it's this crazy Polish last name, and she tells you that one brother played professional baseball, and the other brother delivers pizza in Detroit and carries his gun, and you're like, okay. And that, their mom is fucking crazy and no one talks to her. You're like, sure, okay. And then you realize either everyone in the family is in on the joke or she wasn't lying.
That is nuts, though.
So I've heard the stories about, because, when there'd be a story about somebody getting robbed or shot delivering pizzas, like, he'd be talking, he's like, I am never going into an apartment where they're like, oh, just come in here. He's like, no, that they are setting you up.
Yeah, that's a dangerous job, though. I felt like that was always a thing. I lived in some crazy areas, and the delivery guys would not come into the building, and I wouldn't even ask them. They would always say, "You have to come downstairs." Sometimes they say, "Come to the car."
This is exactly what he's saying. I had rules set for myself. I never delivered to anywhere dark. Never went to anyone's house. I carried, and I had a really powerful flashlight. So everything that you just said, Carrie would say the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Other than he did go in some people's houses because he goes, there were people that he knew. Like, they ordered every single day. So he would go there. But those were people that he knew. And I'm sure you probably had, customers that, you
had regulars. He had regulars that he knew, probably, in locations.
There was
a big
one,
part of it.
I just remember there was one where there was a shooting, a robbery, and the guy was killed. And he was talking about, it's like, everything about this, like, just it, like, I would never have gone in there. I would have been like, nope, not going in there. And he told some crazy story. He had told me he actually died delivering pizza. He had a heart
don't
attack.
say this. Oh, he died.
No, he had a heart attack. Yeah, no, not like, no. I mean, it's tragic no matter how. But,
shoot, these people asked for extra cheese, and it's like too much.
No, he had a heart attack while driving to deliver his last pizza.
So he made it a career to deliver pizza. I've often told the health issues of my ex. Well, I always say you could write a book. Well, her book is the sequel to his book. Oh boy!
He literally died 2 times before this.
Oh man!
All right. When she says he was pronounced dead, they came out and told everyone. Her dad went in there alone and then came out and said he's alive. And they're like, we pronounced him dead. And they fucking go in there and he's fucking like, it's beating. Like this is shit that you can't like write. But his health fucking like, he had like, like, again, I tell you can write a book on Susan. Carrie, like, hers is the sequel to Carrie. And then her brother that played professional baseball. All his medical issues are from basically throwing a baseball too hard. Basically being a baseball player. And then their sister, it like skips a generation. It's messed up. I'm just glad my kids don't have that shit.
There you go. Well, R.I.P. to the pizza delivery guy.
Yeah, Carrie was a great guy. And he died on the day that Infinity War came out.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. I remember.
Yeah,
because I was at the theater. Yeah, you were. At the theater.
I was watching it, and she called me, and I was like, I read in the end credits, and I thought she was going to yell at me, but I'm like, she doesn't call me this. She's being fucking bad. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. If anyone ever interviews me, and I don't remember if we talked about it. Who knows?
We did.
Anyway,
We did talk about it.
I know we've talked. We've talked so much lately.
We
That it's
talked.
hard to say if it was I'm that, if it was backstage or whatever. But anyway, so you moved to Iowa. When do you get into collecting? Well, first off, how does your wife deal with your collecting? That was one of the things when I started the show. That was one of the things that I wanted to ask. And I tend to forget to ask people, like, how does your girlfriend, your wife, your significant other, how do they deal with collecting, whether they're toys,
let's see here.
Do they collect so you can use that against them?
No. All right. So when it started, the collecting, it was my WWE Elites, right? So they were getting better. I had a few before, but now they were adding more articulation so I can actually pose them and do certain things. And the detail of they had a new facial scanning tool that they were using, and these guys started looking just like the real life counterpart. I'm like, oh, they upped their game this year. So I was like, all right, let me get a few of these. And then I noticed there was a few more I wanted. So I gave my wife a heads up. Let you know I'm collecting something now. And she's like, how many are you going to get? It's like, there's no number right now, but there is a few. And she's like, okay,
Silly girl.
So, yeah. Well, hey, she had helped me. She helped me out. She made a shelf because she's very crafty. And she made this shelf with ring ropes and everything. I forgot if it was like Father's Day or something like that. And she put it up on the wall with command strips because she's against like putting holes in anything. And I was like, amazed.
Wait. Well, you can't skip over the whole. She's like, wait. So you have shelves put up with command hooks.
There was this one shelf, not a bunch. It was one that she had with command hooks. Yeah, she put with the lines. She set it up. I didn't partake in this.
You're not worried like
if
thing's coming down.
It never fell down. It never. It came down when we moved, but it stayed up and it held weight. I had 6 or 7 figs on it, and it held up. I was like, it was amazed. The command strips. We could have did an ad for them. I was like, look, it can hold all these figs, and then put like a little time strip of elapsed time. It's like the months, the weeks, the years. I think I had it there for like 2 years up, and and it was on camera. People would see and like, oh, where'd you get that ring? That's hanging up. Like my wife made it. Yeah, she made it for me. So so I was collecting, and then it was just they were getting all over the place. And then my son got into collecting, but I would get him the basics. And for those who collect the wrestling figs, then they know the basics are the cheap ones. Those are the ones that are like under $10. There's not a lot of articulation there, though. So he didn't care. He was young at the time. He's like 4 years old. So he didn't care. He just wanted them. Now, when he got older, I'd say like around 6, not March 6, around 6 and 7, he would see what mines can do with the bending, and then we would watch some YouTube videos that he would like to watch people like just wrestle, do the matches, do the pig feds, and he would notice that's what really was the giveaway. He's like, how come that guy's figure knee bends that way, mine doesn't? And I was like, well, because you don't have the elite version. And he's like, do you have the elite version? I'm like, Daddy does have the elite version. And then I was like, can I play with that one? No, you can't, because that one is not for playing. What do you mean it's not for playing? It's a toy. I'm like, it's not a toy for Daddy. It's and we would go through the whole thing. But eventually I had to convert a lot of them, and I went to eBay for it, though. Get them used. He didn't need them in a box or anything, and I get them used. And then I would even explain when they're arguing about price. I'm like, this is literally going to a kid. I don't care. I have Mod Podge. If it's loose, I will tighten it up. I don't care. He wants to just bend him around.
Yeah.
So then he got into that, and now he collects Pokemon and Fortnite skins and all that. He's away from actual the figs. Now it's just me. But that's what got me into it. And then the classifieds came out, and then we can get into that. That's when everything changed.
Okay, but I gotta ask you about. So, if you're wondering what that is, you know that's Roman. That is my son who doesn't care. Oh, hey, look, you're doing this. I'll be quiet, but I'll get the dog going. So, no big deal. It's not like you're doing anything. Okay, so when we talked, you brought up your AEW figures.
Horrible.
Tell everyone how bad.
They
How
don't
bad-
stand. I mean, I'm looking at one that's laying down now. They should all they should all come laying down because they will not stand. And it's not that they're loose just yet, but they have it's just not. I can't even explain it. It's like I'm just trying to stand as full right now, and it just doesn't. That's the problem. The Jazzware figures just have they do a great job with the design. They look just like their counterparts on TV. They have all the articulation. You can pop off the heads easily. You can pop the torso, mix match if you want. Sounds great, but I mean, I feel like they probably put little tip drops of glue everywhere, and that's it. Because when my son was getting into this, and I would get him some of them, within like a day, he would like, Daddy, and they're wiggly. All of them. They had no joy. And I'm like, what the hell? Was it a mess up? And then I'm looking up online, and I'm telling you, there's some pig feds that he was following that the guys even would say, they're like, hey, I'm not adding any AEW figs in any of my pig feds. I'm not doing it. They're like, oh, why? They look great. Because they don't hold up. I can't even get them to pose after once of just setting them in motion, because then they get loose. It's like, it's not worth it. And then they can't stand. It's like the balancing, the weight, they don't seem to care. I have, even with stands, I put them on 2 stands, stand for each foot, and they slump over.
That's what got me, because when we were talking, you're like, I know you say you hate stands, but like I have just AEW figures, they just collapse. They're like, even with the stands, I can't get on this stand up.
Yeah, with the worst, man, and that's the problem. And people have wised up to this. So at first, go to Target, Walmart, they were flying off the shelf. At first, it was a new promotion, but then also new figs people like to collect. And then now go ahead and go to Target. You'll see a bunch of them on there, even big names guys on there, Jericho, all of them. And it's not because people are tired of it. It's just they wised up that the production, the toy brand itself, it just isn't made of good quality. It doesn't last. It's especially if you just want to put it on display. Forget about playing with it. You just want to have him stand up or pose like in a fighting pose, like he's moving forward. You can't. He can't stand up unless you're putting some sticky tack underneath him and having his hand lean against the wall because he needs support. I'm telling you, I have a few of them where they're leaning against the wall, and I don't want them there, but I like the way they look.
And that reminds me of like the old G.I. Joe O-rings when they would just get so worn.
Yeah.
The knees have no tension left on them. We didn't know how to replace the O-rings, so they would just kind of collapse. That is what I'm picturing every AEW figure to be after you said something.
Man, when I take pictures and I send it, and I don't post on Instagram and all that stuff, but I have like for my friends that and I'll send them pictures like all over, and then they're like, is that Jericho laying on the floor with a bottle? And I'm like, yeah, because the fool can't stand. So I gave him a bottle so it looks like he's a wino in the back, just laying on the floor because I can't make him stand up. It just doesn't work that way. And even this one, I love the way this one looks. This is Andrade. It's got a cool mask, like a pinstripe suit, everything. But then I put him in, and I can't for the life of me get him just to stand up on his own, or even. And he doesn't have loose ankles. It's just something about the peg holes just not being positioned right on the bottom of the foot. It just doesn't work, and it's sad.
So Joe Fan says, I have a hard time getting my classified figures. I don't know how. I have all these figures. Like I have the only ones that are difficult to stand are some of the older ones that have the big shin guards because you can't move their ankle up that much. Some of the ninjas, the females are a bitch. I'll give you that. But I have, they're all sitting. I mean, whether it be, the Valiverse figures, the Operation Monster Force, obviously lots of classified. they're all sitting here, and these like, again, this table, it has divots in it, so I don't know, like I
You're
don't know what you're doing wrong. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I could agree with him for some of them, like you said. Sometimes they can't stand upright, but I have to have a stand on all of them, and
Nope.
it's more of, and I do it because of that. And like even last night, I'm sleeping, and then I heard that we've all heard that fall. Like, I'm like, who fell? Who fell? How dare you fall? And so that's why I want them all on stands. So then that way I don't have that stress of just seeing them eventually fall over. Because eventually, if you put them in certain positions, they will lean a little bit, and so that's why
Yeah.
I always have the stands. Um, and that's my thing. I have pretty much almost all of them. I'm trying to think now if I have any not on a stand.
All right, so I want to address this. King Panther says Punk, the immortal nemesis, sucks to stand. It's one of the worst all time, and I had him as my number 2 most disappointing figure. I think
He
But-
can't stand.
I disagree.
Yeah, I know you did a trick though. You tell everybody the trick.
I was wrong. You have to heat him up. All right, and his ankle. I didn't think his ankle would go past 90. Once you heat him up, the way the boot is, it will slide up and it will go up on top of it. And then you can get him to actually stand. I have him standing perfectly fine now. And I think that's why some people argued with me, because they didn't have the issue. Matthew said, I never had a problem with it. Spec said, dude, he told me, I can't believe I used them one after another. But he's like, you have to heat it up. He goes, because I thought the same thing.
I didn't want to take that chance. It wasn't budging, and you could easily snap them. So I'm like, you know what? Nope. I put him on a flight stand, and I have him on a flight stand, so it looks like he's just.
I can't believe you got a flight stand that will hold him.
Yeah, it holds. I'll send you a pic. He's up there. It holds him.
But I have him standing like kind of leaned forward because that big, the big back piece, the wings and everything. But they will lean forward. And so I was completely wrong about that. There's some very, very tight joints on it. You just have to be very careful. And once you figure out how it goes, once it pops out, it'll work fine for you. You'll be happy. So, and Kiwi Custom says, smash it like this, please do. All right. So you were collecting those. Now you said classified.
Yes.
So what happened with class? Like what made you get into the classified line?
Just the level of detail. It wasn't so much the nostalgia. It was like, oh, great, they're making more jokes. We've seen it over the years. That's the other thing. I walk into toy stores when we had toy stores, when Toys R Us was still around, and they still had them, but it didn't do it for me. But with classified, it's just something about it. I was like, oh wow, look at these. And then I was like, I'm still not going to pick them up. I said, I'll let somebody else. And then I forgot what year it was. Maybe it was definitely before COVID. And I found your channel. And you were already reviewing them. And I started seeing, and you putting the pose, and it's like, oh, these are quality figs. This isn't a cash grab for the oldies, to go pick this up. And then to see all the accessories that they were coming with and trigger hands. And I was like, oh, wow, this looks like fun. I could do a lot with these. So I'm already getting ideas. And then that's what really pulled me in. And then I was a little upset when they started doing the plastic list ones, and you couldn't see the fig, and I was like, great, now I don't know if it's actually in there or not until I get home. I was like, what if I open up and I see I don't know, a Shira or some, a banana or something.
I saw water bottles in some of them.
Yeah. Oh, I saw all this. I've heard it all. People finding all kinds of stuff in them. And I'm like, why would they do this? Oh, they're trying to save money. I'm like, come on now. You should still see what you're purchasing. Don't show me a nice artwork picture of it, because what if he doesn't even look like that? I remember the days, you remember this, Nintendo games. On the back, it showed all kinds of amazing stuff, not actual gameplay. And then you bring it home and you're like, what the hell is this? This isn't what was on the box. It looked nothing like this. So it was the same thing. But then they went back to it, and then I could see him, and I was like, all right, let's go. And at this point, my cousin Manny, still part of my life, and he was all in on this. He was like, no, I'm telling you, this is good. But he was also collecting it and refurbishing, doing all the stuff for the O-rings. Yeah, and that's his thing. He's in the art world, works for Marvel, DC, all that stuff. So he just enjoys it. So he would buy these old ones and then just repaint them all. He just loved it. So I was like, I'm thinking about getting into classifieds. He's like, get ready, man. I'm all in. They're great. You're gonna love them. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And sure enough, every time I would consider one, I was like, let me see what Lawrence had to say. Oh yeah, he covered this. All right, let me see. I'm telling you, a large majority of these is your fault. It's your fault because yeah, there was so many where I was like, nope, not interested. Nalgahide. I was hell bent. I was like, I saw, nope, not getting, don't want it. And then you did this whole review and you did the comparison of the old one, and I did have that old one. And I was like, I don't know. And then I saw it on Amazon. They had it on sale. I was like, oh, one of those, oh, you'll get it tomorrow, free delivery. And I'm like, and I think I even put a comment. I was like, it was like years after you already posted. I was like, I got him. I couldn't. I just gave in. So, and that was it. And then I start getting ideas once I get them, and then they start releasing. I had the Cobra Commander, and I didn't have the HasLab one. I had just the one with the sword and all that. It wasn't the retro one. And then when they released the card retro one, I was like, well, I have to have that one because I had people shaming me because I had the evil twins. I had all that set up, and people like, that's not the Cobra Commander. I know you don't have the real Cobra Commander. They were shaming me. They were putting pressure on me. So then I'm like, all right, I'll get it. So then I got that. And then I was like, I had a Storm Shadow. Like, where's your Snake Eyes? Well, and this is be controversial. I'm not big with the Snake Eyes, and the ninjas. Something about it, I don't know what it is. I like the Commando version of Snake Eyes. That's a different one.
There's a lot of people that say that they don't like Ninja Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
version 2, they like Commando. I don't think anyone. I can't say everyone. Most people never said that as a kid. Everyone liked the Ninja one. I love, version 2, in my opinion, is the best one. Now, as for classified, even though I do like I do like the first one they came out with, which is version 2.
Yeah.
The retro carded Commando Snake Eyes, maybe the best figure they've done. And I go right to Mezco. I hate the version 2 that they did, but the Commando one is way better. A lot of that has to do with the aesthetics they did too.
So and that was I don't know. It's just even with the Snake Eyes movie, I'm like, why does he get a movie? Why him? Why?
Well, they shouldn't have done that.
No, they should have done it. But it even baffled me because then it made me feel like I was always collecting wrong. Like, is he supposed to be my hero of this? It wasn't Flint. It wasn't all the stuff going on with Duke. And I was supposed to care about Snake Eyes. I get it. He's an OG, Scarlet, all that Roadblock. But I didn't connect with him like that.
But you had more. You grew up more on the cartoon than the comic, right?
Yes. That was the other thing. So even though I do remember seeing the comics out there, I think I picked up a handful, and that was mainly just because of the cover art. But I was never a big follower of the comics. It was mainly the cartoon and then all the figs. I mean, I felt like every time I went to a toy store, there was a new fig and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, how did they do? I just saw that cartoon yesterday and he's in the store. Father, bring him to the register, please. It was like, because you know what I mean, right? It was like every time they would show something, then it was there. Dr. Mindbender pops up, and I was like, oh, okay. Oh, wow, he's got a toy already. It was great timing. I'm sure they had it all planned out once it airs to make sure all the figs that were in that cartoon were already on store shelves. But it worked.
And I think that's one of those things where so many of these collectors, some of these GI Joe fans, they look at the cartoon and they're like, they've never, they've never done a real version of this figure, that version that was from the cartoon. And it was like, that's not the real version.
No.
The real version is what Larry Hama has done and what the designers did, because they went hand in hand. The file cards, the cartoon came out way after. And a lot of people don't realize that, because they think that everything was based off of the cartoon. And it was like, the cartoon is it is a sad interpretation of GI Joe. I'm just gonna say
it's not this, but it was always going to be hard to
Yeah.
present something like that for kids as a cartoon. You can't have people die. They're running around with guns. All right, we'll turn that into lasers. It was a hard sell. Like that's always the argument now when people say, "Well, how come we don't have a GI Joe cartoon now?" It's like, have you not seen the climate that we live in right now? How people, you really think that would even work? Even on Netflix, if they tried to do that right now, it's like people will be up in arms about this. How dare you show these characters running around with guns and pistol whipping people?
They could do different iterations. And I think
They have to change it that it's not for kids. Like I liked that one that was on the Cartoon Network. What is it, 2011? Renegades.
Yeah.
It was like an origin story for a lot of them, and they were on the run. Cobra was now seen as like the quote unquote good guy corporation, and it was a cool take. And I definitely like the art design, and I can go with that. I was like, oh, this is gonna work. When's the next season coming out?
Yeah,
Never did.
So what Turk Murphy says, I agree. Punk the comic is the true lore. So I think that there's the lore of your head. There's the lore of the cartoon. And there's been obviously different iterations, but to me, Larry Hama, he is G.I. Joe.
Yes.
It's just like George Lucas, right? George Lucas is Star Wars. I don't care what Disney tries to do. If George Lucas goes, yeah, that was never the idea, I'm sorry, I have to go with that. Where you look at the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, that is the true lore of a real American hero. The file cards were built off of it. The figures were built off after it. Larry Hama made sure that like the big figures or the popular figures in the cartoon that he didn't like didn't really get a say. Quick Kick and Shipwreck.
Yeah. He killed off a few of them in like a bunker or something, right? Whether the Dr. Mindbender, Boa and stuff died in like an explosion or.
Yeah, they did a few things, but I mean, he was the one that did the whole Serpentor, which I like the Serpentor.
Oh, did you pre-order your card, your retro Serpentor that you talked about? Like, did you pre-order it? I pre-ordered 2 of them. Thanks for shouting that out. I was so excited when you said that. I was like, oh yes, let's go clicky.
Then you found out
it was fake. It was all fake. But you did have me going there when you're like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, how? I didn't see it. What? This didn't happen. And you're talking all this stuff. Oh, they announced all this. And then, yeah, it didn't happen.
See, okay, I'm with Matthew at Storm Shadow. He was, again, Storm Shadow was more Joe than Cobra. All right? But Matthew has like to a T on exactly how long he was Cobra compared to G.I. Joe. But again, his Cobra uniform is iconic. I have to take a quick break. Is that okay?
Yep, go for it.
I normally don't, but man, this Arnold Palmer has
go for it.
Really quick. So, Mossman is going to have a few words for everyone.
All right.
Oh, hey guys. So Lawrence, he had to step away for a little bit. He's got a case of the grumble dust. So he asked me to kind of watch over a stream. He put me in charge of y'all. He said to me, oh, Mossman, I have a case of the grumble dust, and I need you to watch myself for a little bit so nobody leaves and finds out that there's more interesting things to watch on YouTube. And also, I hate Ohio. So I was like, oh, dang, so now I have to come up with a topic for my very own show. And I was like, oh, what about talking about your favorite toy stores? So my favorite toy store is HelloDopeToys.com. So they used to have this really bad website. It used to look real scammy. Like if I gave them money, they were going to go spend it on like blow and hookers. But now their website is really nice, and like I can just go in and do like 1-2 click, and then my order's placed. And they ship super fast, guys. They ship everything in 1 business day. So like I get all my toys first. So when I'm out there on the playground and all my friends are like, "Oh dang, Mouse Man, where'd you get that action figure? I still have to wait 17 months for mine." And I'm just like, "Well, I went to HeldUpToys.com and I just pushed the buttons, and then they shipped it out to me. And the packaging is so nice, guys. Like I opened up the box, and I thought, "Oh, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this kind of packaging. It's so nice." But then my trash can gets full because of all the packing stuff, and I was just like, "Oh dang, I just changed the trash." But now I gotta change the trash again. Oh, you're right, Matthew Matson. You can use the code APWT at HelloDopeToys.com and save 10% on your order. So how that works is, so you're gonna save 10%, and then a Punk with Toys, he has to pay that 10% that y'all save. So if you don't like Lawrence, you can just go to HelloDopeToys.com and just buy a bunch of stuff and rack up his bill. So then, like, at the end of the month, they're like, Hello Dope Toys is like, "Oh, Lawrence, you owe us $1 million because of all the 10% codes that everybody used." And yeah, that's how that works. Okay, guys, so it looks like it's time for me to go now. So make sure you go to HelldUpToys.com and like and subscribe, and then in the comments put what your favorite toy store is. But if it's not HelldUpToys.com, I'm probably just going to delete it, okay? So, all right, guys, bye!
All right, Matthew, I need a commercial longer than 1 minute and 15 seconds, just in case. So give me a commercial that's about 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes. Also, Matthew, as my moderator, can we put in bad words that will just get blocked, like Mossman sucks? So every time that Tony tries to type it, it will just get blocked and no one will see it. How do you not like Mossman? Anyway, thank you. I mean, I don't like doing that when I have a guest on, but
Right.
I've been holding it for like 45 minutes, and I'm like, this is not going to end well for me.
Yeah, no problem. But that gave me time to go pull something out. Here, shit, I just dropped it. Let's take a look at this. I did it again. It's hitting. So
I guess you do need a stand.
there we go. See, no, but he can stand. You see, this is from the Guts. Remember the Guts series?
Okay.
The little guys, and I was saying that it was like I had him, but look, he can stand it. This figure's like over 20 years old. And he's perfectly fine. See, I can move. Hey, it's fine. It works, you know. So whatever. I don't know. And Jazzwares can't figure this shit out. But yeah, I have this over 20-year-old fig right now, and it's hard rubber. Still has a grip. And then here, I sent you the image, and I'll try to see if I can put this on camera for everybody else to see. See, my nemesis on the flight stand.
Yeah, hold on. I'll make you large really quick here.
Yeah.
Maybe. There's your soul.
There we go. If you guys can see,
I-
there's
now-
a nemesis.
Are you
He's on the
using a
flight stand.
Hasbro stand?
Yeah, that's a Hasbro stand.
Okay. Those flight stands are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a whole video on getting into, hold the trouble bubble up. So,
Well, that was the other thing that you helped me out, because again, that's something I was not gonna get, because I'm like, what the hell am I gonna put a trouble bubble on just my table? That doesn't look right. I want them up high. How am I gonna do that? I probably have to make something. And I saw some people, they did it. They made their own little stand and stuff.
Yep.
And then you posted up. It was like, I found a quick fix, sticky tack, put it on top, take this piece of, plug it in, and I was like, all right, thanks a lot. Let's open up a new tab. Hasbro purchase.
dude, those flight stands were awesome. Like they are really good flight stands.
Oh yeah.
I also did a whole video on Serpentor's Air Chariot, which wasn't the best stand. I have to figure out a different one, because I think they've made, Hasbro has, the G.I. Joe team has made a huge foobar not making a universal stand that will be able to hold up, the Air Chariot, the Flight Pod, the Cobra Claw, the Fang when it comes, because that's going to be a smaller vehicle. all that
I
stuff. Like they should have something.
I
And
don't get it.
I know. So Plastic Fantastic sent me, and I'm sure you can find the file anywhere. It's a little piece that you can print up, and if you get uh, one of those gliders from the Fortnite that you can get at Ollie's for $4,
hmm
it pins onto it, and you're able to pin it hooks onto it, and then you can pin um, uh, the jetpack to the trouble bubble, and it just hangs there, and it looks way better than I have one of those. Actually, it's downstairs. I have one of those on the flight stand, and then I think I have two trouble bubbles now taking flight. Because I also have the Python Patrol one. Matthew, I'm going to see if I can find it. Because if I can find it, I'm just going to print them up and.
I need to see that
really
setup.
small.
Yeah, let's see that.
It's really small, and it just pins over. And again, those I mean, I went to Ollie's and I actually got it when it was on sale for like $3.20 or something.
You would think that they would come up with something because it would better sell the product, because then people would like, oh well, now I can envision that now flying up in the air.
They didn't even need to, considering those things sold like crazy. Ed says he has one. Yeah, I gotta look because it's just a small little flat piece that you 3D print. So it's probably on Thingiverse. I can probably just ask Plastic Fantastic where he got it. He'll probably be like, "I'll send you a whole bunch." I'm like, "All right." All right. So you get into classified. How deep have you gone into being part of the classified line?
Yeah. Also, when we did our interview, and I had some people that had watched it, and they laughed at one part when they're like, "You said you don't collect them all. Don't you have them all?" And I'm only missing maybe 3 or 4, so I guess I do have them all. But I'm just picky. I don't. I call myself picky, but I do have a lot. I have almost every single one. But there's some that I'm missing. I think the Snow Troopers, Cobra Snow Trooper.
The Snow Serpent?
The Snow
original one?
The original one, yeah. And one of them came with a snowboard, right? The snowboard.
That was the deluxe one.
That was a deluxe
That's one. That's a figure that's going to go up in price. He's never going to go down. That's why they came out with the retro one, because so many people couldn't get them, or didn't want to pay the price, and then they whined and cried that they didn't get it.
The Cobra Eel dude, I didn't care for that either. I was like, how am I gonna display him? I did see some cool ones. I saw this one dude, and he had like little bubbles next to it, so that way it looks like he's in the water and stuff. But I was like, I don't know, it's not gonna work what I set up. But yeah, for the most part, I have them all. I have a good amount. Yeah. It's like I look around and it's like, man, my wife, she's this time she would walk in. It's like, when did this come here? When did you get this? Why did you get this? Why are you doing? And she doesn't collect. So now
she doesn't collect anything.
No. And then that was just her upbringing. Also, she never collect. So her brother, he got Star Wars toys and stuff. He's also in our age group, and he was 76, and he picked up some things. But again, even now, it's like, hey, you collect anything? No. So when there's no one around that's doing it, and then I'm doing it, and she wasn't brought up on it, to her, it's like, why do you need these things? And I was like, it's just fun. It's just fun to do these setups and this stuff that I had as a kid. And then as I got older, and then my space got smaller, I couldn't do it. So it was like, there's no way to even bring it up, because where am I going to fit all the stuff? And then now we move, and then we have a bigger place, and then I have a bigger office area. And the first thing I started thinking of was like, oh, how can I fill this up? And it's like, oh, I can set this up here and set this up there. And, I got the vamp up on the top there with the doc doing CPR, and, I got all kinds of stuff, and I got some touch lights, and puck lights, and I put them around, and I have a little button, and whoop, and it lights everything up. And it's just my thing, and that's my daughter. She doesn't get on me with this. She sees it. She's like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, any of your friends, their dads are no, it's just you. And I was like, great.
I say all the time to Olivia, I'm like, I bet none of your friends have any cool dads like yours that collect toys. And she's like, nope, dad. Nope.
No. Well, that's the argument also that I brought up when we were talking before, is that, yeah, it's great that the G.I. Joe line is back and we see it in stores and stuff, but it's really catered to us because there's, even though the comic is still going, and I did start reading the comics recently, and then I go back and forth some of the older ones. I'm blanking on the guy's YouTube channel. You know who it is? It's JLC Comics or something like that.
JLS Comics.
JLS Comics. Awesome dude. Go follow him. He does amazing.
I
He's
had him on here. I had him
on.
Oh,
there you go. Good.
And
he's awesome. Dude is awesome.
If you want to know about any character, and it's basically G.I. Joe or Marvel, just his deep dives that he does,
it's amazing.
15, 20 minutes,
Oh,
and he's pretty much got that character down.
And it's not even just him talking. He's showing the frames, the comics, and it's like, oh, man, this is amazing. I could spend hours just watching. So, yeah, shout out to him, man. So it's definitely I forgot how I even got on it. But, yeah, he's done some great jobs with that, putting it all together. What was I up to? I was talking about something with. What were we talking about? See, I just blanked on it. That just threw me off. Have you started to collect any adjacent lines to Classified?
Well,
with like the Valiverse?
Yeah.
Yes, with the Valiverse. I have a handful of them. I mean, I'm not into some of his are too wacky. I get it. Some of them are supposed to be in the future and all that stuff. I don't go that route. Like, let's move here. This. Like, I have the Condor, the mail-in edition. I give him a cigar, so he's just like hanging out, smoking, doing his thing. With the Bone Collector, we talked about that. That's awesome. I love the way that one looks. Carrick with the Gladiator helmet, that was a cool one. Atlas, the newest one. Some of them, and they fit nicely with the G.I. Joes. And so they look like they fit in. I mean, granted, I don't have a bunch of people coming over to shame me. I'm like, how dare you have this Valiverse? But no one even knows.
I know that's why when I first started collecting them, that's what I was doing, was mixing them.
Yeah. It's cool.
I still have a lot mixed in.
Yeah. See, but my gripe is sort of like what we just talked about with the Nemesis, is that you have to heat up those hands. And it's great they come with hands, but you can't just pop them off. And I've had one, not on this one. It was one on my Mattel Elite. Same type of deal early on, that you had to heat them up. And it was a Rey Mysterio. My son didn't want the fist hand, wanted the grabby hand to put a chair in his hand. No problem. Let me pull it off. Oh, no, the peg is stuck in the forearm. Oh, it's broken. Because I tried heating it up. I tried tweezers, trying to pull it out. No. That's it. And you can't just pop out the arm. It doesn't work that way. They weren't modular like that. So it was garbage. I just broke his toy. He was freaking out. And that's it with these. It's like you have to heat them up. And it sucks because I don't want to have to heat it up, then bring it back. And I know they said they're working on it, or the newer ones with the
newer ones, at least the last one that I don't collect Valiverse anymore. But the last ones that I was collecting, I really didn't have an issue. They did modify the way the hand pops in, so it pops in all the way much easier. But yeah, I
was going to say, at your local toy shop, do they sell Valiverse?
No.
We have Jay's out here, and they do. That's a surprising thing too. They carry them. They carry them in box.
Yeah, so one of my toy stores had it. The big one here, he said that he was just this guy was like a total dick to me, so I don't really want to deal with him. And then the one guy that got it too, when I talked to him, he goes, I just don't really care for the guy, so because it's kind of a dick when I ordered stuff. And so, and yeah, I'm not gonna. I was actually at the beginning, I was really like, you should really get this, and then as more time's gone on, I was like, well, I'm not going to support that. So I'm not going to tell you to order that, John. If he gets them, he gets them. I don't think they sell nearly as well. I think they do better just direct, or going through like online, just distribution, like either directly through Valiverse, BBTS, or Hello
And
Toys.
that's the issue, because I had a buddy of mine who went to Jay's, and he's always buying stuff. He's like, "Hey, I'm here. Anything you're looking for?" And then I would name some of them. There was Trigger and a few other ones. And he found the Colonel or something like that. And it's like, "Oh yeah, I'll get that." And the guy who told him, was like, "Oh, well, that's good that someone's buying these." So I guess he got them, but a lot of people don't know. And I guess you wouldn't know. You would think they're G.I. Joe knockoffs because of the card backing and how they word everything. And it's like, they're probably garbage. And they're not. They have good articulation. They look great. They come with great weapons and stuff. But it's a shame, like you said, that the person behind all of it is a prick. And that's not me saying that. I'm just saying from the way people are saying they don't like him. He's hard to work with, hard to deal with, and it's a shame.
Yeah, and again, like I had a lot of the figures, and then I just got to the point where I really didn't want to. I work hard for my money, and you know what? I sometimes if I don't. Again, Hasbro's different, Mattel's different. It's shareholders. I didn't want to put my money behind something like that, and that's and there's people that will say the same thing. I'm not going to buy Hasbro. I'm not going to buy. All right, well that's your. And some people have good experience with certain people, great. Like I said, I was all for it. I reviewed so many of those figures, and I know, even though they'll say that I'm super negative and I put them down, you go through my comments, you'll see numerous people say, I bought Valiverse because of you.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
it's each your own. How you collect is how you collect. Whoever wants to collect. That's it.
To me, the way that I see it is when people say, hey, you know what? I don't know about them and I don't care about them. I just want good toys. I said, that's awesome. It's just unfortunate when you get to know a lot of people in this community and you hear firsthand how they've been treated. That's when you start going, you know what? If it was one or two people, but when you get to 15, 16 people all telling you similar stories that aren't even related to each other, that's when you go, you know what? I'd rather put my money elsewhere, like into
but it does bring up some
conviction.
It brings up some points. It's like, man, here it is. A lot of people that do collect them, besides the design, they love the retro feel of having the cards, doing the point system, doing the mail-in. Why isn't Hasbro doing this? This is their idea. Why are they not?
If you've ever heard the nightmare that was the O-ring when they did the flag points, they would talk about how many just were sent. I've listened to I've listened to guys that worked back then going, we just had thousands of these things coming in. It's just a logistical nightmare. Again, it's a fun thing to do, but it's a logistical nightmare. And I'll say it again, like Hasbro, they own G.I. Joe. They treat it like the redheaded stepchild. And I can say that because I have a redheaded stepchild. Well, at one time I said redheaded stepchild. She's my daughter for the most part. She is my daughter, but she was technically a redheaded stepchild. She's redhead and stepchild.
There we go.
And again, here, hey, we're doing a G.I. Joe stream. Boom. Oh, nope, we're canceling it. Now, there's reasons I believe behind that. I don't know for sure, but reasons I believe it gets pushed back. But we get another Marvel one. So we've had, and they haven't done a fan stream in like 6 months.
Now, do you think it has to do with the production? Because weren't they they gave a heads up a few streams back saying, hey, 2025 stuff is going to be delayed. They were doing something. So maybe it has to do with that they can't officially announce what they want to announce to say, hey.
I think a lot had to do with the rumored leaks that some people were going out and telling. To me, it seems like The G.I. Joe team wants to keep things as hush hush as possible. So when these leaks went out, whether they're true or not, they now want to find out who is leaking this. And in my opinion, that's been the biggest thing. That because they did it once before with the Dragonfly. When the Dragonfly went out, before anyone knew, they went total, and again, complete like damage mode. Like it doesn't really matter. But they try and keep this stuff hush hush the same way that Star Wars doesn't want to like release their stuff. So when certain things get out there, like this vehicle list, I don't think they like it. And I think it's very bothersome because they want to know who the hell is leaking all this stuff.
But they have a lot of hands in the pot at this point.
Right.
Because think about it, right? You have the people that come with the ideas, you have the designers, and then you send it off to manufacturing. You have the manufacturers,
But-
they have to see to make sure they
Yeah.
have the materials. It could be any number of these people.
You're
who need to-
absolutely right. And I also believe that going back to the company we were talking about, that
Mhm.
guy worked at Hasbro, and I do believe that he still has people in Hasbro that will leak things to him. That's how he knew. He knew that he knew Sergeant Slaughter was already signed for G.I. Joe to do a classified eventually. He signed him really quick to make his own because he knew he could get it out
Hey,
faster.
First Wave had them. Sorry.
Yeah, he knew about the Steel Brigade license coming up, so he went and grabbed the Steel Brigade. So now they no longer have the license to call it a Steel Brigade. There have been a lot of things that he's known, and you'll see a lot of things come out from people that he's associated with, and I have no proof of this. I believe that he's told certain things, and then he kind of relays it to these guys, so then they can talk about it, because it'd be a really bad look for him if he just kind of said, "Yep, here's what I know." My personal opinion. Everyone's trying to get head up on everyone, right?
Yeah.
That's
I
how
mean,
you
that's
do it.
business, right? That's the whole thing. But
But
here's the
I think that's why I got pushed back.
thing.
My personal opinion. I could be completely wrong. I'm just looking at some of the stuff they've done in the past, having conversations with some of them, and just seeing how they do things. They do not like leaks like that.
No company likes leaks, especially because what if they're just product ideas? They have no plan to go in production.
Well-
Now you have this hype for a fig or
And-
for a vehicle that has no plans
Yeah,
of going
and,
in
they,
production.
and they've
Not
changed things like that. The
Yeah,
two
yeah.
pack. So the 2-pack of Falcon, the Night Force Falcon, and Quarrel. That was
Okay,
supposed to
I
be
remember that one.
That was supposed to be Falcon and the Dreadnought Heart Wrencher. That was confirmed.
Mm.
That was confirmed by them, and then they changed it.
And even that Flint one was always sold out, so it still sold well, even though it's
Oh yeah, but that one was confirmed by numerous people, and actually told. They actually told a couple buddies of mine when they did a stream with them. So I know that one was true. The breaker that was supposed to come out a while back, but it leaked out, so I think they pulled it back. It's just what they
Retro
do.
Major Blood, right? I think I saw some of that. So
Well, there's been no confirmation of that. I thought, take it back. I thought they had confirmed that there was a Retro Major Blood, but no one else seems to remember this.
it's a Mandela
Maybe-
effect. I
That's
could
what
have
was
swore I
gonna
heard
say,
it too.
Mandela effect.
Yeah, I could have swore too that I heard that a
I
while
thought
ago.
Emily said it on one of the streams where she just kind of like said, "Oh yeah, here's one of the retro cards," but no one else seems to remember, including Chris McLeod of the Full Force, and he knows everything. Matthew, you're probably right. Like I said, that's not Matthew. Quarrel better than Heart Wrench. I don't know if she's better than, but I think that the 2-pack of Quarrel and
Like,
Falcon made more sense than Quarrel and Heart Wrencher.
I
Okay,
guess
so-
because
Okay, yeah, so I remember Emily talking about retro Major Blood and Cobra Commander. All right, see, I swear.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like once after the Viper Island came out, and it was like, wow, we have a store exclusive.
Yeah, so this was another thing. Chris McLeod from the Full Force, he confirmed this, that Retro Major Blood was supposed to be the last of the Walmart retro cards, but they went with Crimson Guard because they didn't know if they were going to continue it, and they wanted to get an army builder out.
Yeah, see, I knew it.
Very few people ever got that. Or very few people found it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple of them, but it's this shit's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I have that Cobra Island Major Blood. It's cool, but I would definitely want to get a retro one.
That Cobra Island Major Blood is one of the best figures still to this day.
Yeah.
I love that figure. I think Matthew would agree too. I love everything about him. I mean, the only thing that I could say that I would say needs to be better is if he was pinless. At that time, they weren't doing pins. And the fucking rockets need to stay in the backpack better.
I had to take the backpack off.
The helmet needs to stop falling off anytime he moves. That helmet is awful. If he falls over, that helmet is going flying.
They did a better job with the helmets, though. I feel a lot of the new Grunt. I like the way his helmet fits on his head.
Blood should have come before a few of those retros. But Major Blood was retro enough, and he was readily available for a long time. Like, I couldn't go into a fucking Target and not see him. And then he was gone. So that's going to be another figure that's never going to, even after a retro one, I hope that they do a retro one and they change them.
Well, they're going to put their little spin on it because they seem to do that with all of them.
But I don't want the exact same figure. I want it where, like, people that have Major Blood, you know what? There's some value in him. And I don't collect for value, but I also have no complaints when I have a figure that is more valuable than other ones.
Came up with something.
Matthew says Major Blood was a figure they produced in proper quantities and made him available. At first, he wasn't, and then he showed up everywhere, and But
I think it's also one of those situations where it depends on the market in the area, because you hear that all the time. True. It's like, hey, my Walmart's everything's sold out, and then somebody from like Wyoming sends a picture, and it looks like the Christmas, like everything is there. Did they just restock? No, they didn't restock. It's just no one here is interested, and so it's just peg warmers, all of them.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the retro. Yeah, he's supposed to be retro, but I want him to have different parts where he's not the exact same figure. Just because, like I said, I was one of the people that got it, and I think everyone should be able to. Everyone had the ability to get it. Sometimes, if you're getting into a line late and you want to collect the whole thing, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra. I have no problem with that. It also helps that I have two of them.
I got him up there, and he's just posing, sticking his gun out. Yeah, next to scrap iron, and they're shooting rockets across the office.
Another great figure.
Oh yeah, I love that one too. There's so many good ones. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's fun. It's a fun line, and this is the way I try to explain. And I'm sure other people here, their spouses, significant others, that don't collect. It's just fun to put them in different poses and set them up, and it's live art. It just looks great.
And you can pose 6-inch action figures so good. Yes, there are some modern 4-inch figures that have almost the exact same articulation, but they do not stand as well. You cannot pose, and I don't care what anyone says. We are fucking old. We wear fucking glasses. We can't see detail on small figures. Some of us are blessed to have perfect vision.
Man.
All right? Not me. And, some of us are blessed to not have arthritis and can... All right?
No.
And there are some wonderful, wonderful 4-inch figures. Fresh Monkey Fiction does a lot of awesome ones. Some of the high kind of hit or miss.
I have buddies that are in our age group that are into Warhammer. and painting them. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they have these thick glasses with the lights on them. And they're like, oh, wait, I had to get some new paint because there's a mall near me and they have a Warhammer shop. And I'm like, how are you still in business? Who is buying this? And it's always packed.
Warhammer.
You know?
I had no idea that Warhammer was as old as it was. When somebody told me how old it was, I was like, really? Because I never even heard of it.
It's old, man. It's old.
But it is huge. Now, if
Yeah.
I talked Warhammer, the only person that's showing up is Wraith Maze. Maybe a few other people. He'd be here every single time. You know, but there is a huge,
There was a buddy of mine in Brooklyn had a gaming hall. It was called Sharky's, and it was cool. A lot of people playing Magic the Gathering card games and stuff like that. But he had some tables in the back, and they had the whole setup. You know, like little trees and a mountain and all this stuff. And I'm like, the first thing I thought was like, oh, people bringing their toy soldiers. What are they doing here? And he said, oh, no, that's for the Warhammer people. Like Warhammer. And then sort of one day, these two guys come in, and man, it took them like an hour just to set up their stuff. Then they have like measuring tapes, so when they roll and stuff, they can measure the distance of when they move their troops across. And I was like, all right, whatever. I left. I came back a few hours later, and the guys were gone, but all their stuff was still there. And I asked him, what's going on? He's like, they'll come back tomorrow. It's getting too late. They didn't finish their battle. And it takes too long to set up and take down. So they just leave it there.
I feel like Warhammer is the toy version of cricket. It never ends.
Yeah, I was gonna go on for multiple days. Yeah, that throws me off to cricket match. Oh yeah, day 3 of the cricket. What? Just end it. What? Oh boy.
All right. So where do you see your collecting going from here? Now, do you see yourself staying with your wrestling figures and G.I. Joe, or do you see yourself maybe branching on like Operation Monster Force?
I saw. Well, I got some of the Monster Force. Remember, I sent you the message about the hooded spy guy, whatever that line. It wasn't. It's something Force. It's that other Force, but
Matthew will say I can't think of what it is.
Yeah, but you guys know it's on Big Bad Toy Store, and one of the guys, the agent, he's an undercover agent. He comes with a Cobra Commander, shroud.
There's a few of them that have the hooded.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there. And yeah, I could go on eBay. Somebody, people are making the 3D printed ones, but I was like, this looks cool, And so I had that one. Then there was a Monster Force Doctor. I think I pre-ordered that. Because who could go wrong with a crazy doctor with the outfit and stuff? That looks awesome, right? You could have fun with that, especially with the doctor and stuff. I put some blood and guts coming out, like, oh, something went wrong. I'll put a cigar in his hand too.
Soldiers of Fortune.
Soldiers of Fortune. There you go. Yeah, that one. I when it comes to the wrestling, I feel like I have them all. It's one of those situations where, like I said, it's like there's not, besides some outfits, it's always the same. They'll come with a microphone. They'll come with a chair, maybe a cloth good. God forbid they put the rubber suits on them and their arms are just stuck. You can't move them. Yeah, I got so many of them. They were like, oh, wow, he looks great with the jacket on, but he's always stuck with his arms out. And what if I want to put his arms down or have him with the mic? You can't do it because he's got this hard rubber. So you got to take it off, and there's nothing underneath. And so I have half naked men all over my room. And I was like, I don't want that either. So I'd pick here and there if there's something I really want. So really, it's just focusing on the G.I. Joes. G.I. Joes, some of the Valiverse, if they fit in line with the character models like I showed off and stuff I have. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this line. Yeah, and I know some people are like, oh, well, it's whatever. It's like, no, this is a fun line. Whether any of that rumors come to pass or not, I'm looking forward to the future of this line.
Ed, I saw that too. You are so getting a roundhouse kick if Matthew ever shows up to Joe Fest. Meant kill a warg. Which my killer wargs actually fell down. Those are the werewolves. They actually fell down and knocked over some of my Fresh Monkey Fiction stuff. So, but you can't use stands on them anyway because they don't have pegs.
What? What? No pegs?
Their feet are so big, fucking peg wouldn't matter.
I would take a drill and just make my own peg.
You don't
That's
need
it.
it. You don't need them. They just the one just tipped over and took out a couple figures. But it's the weight of it. It's not so much that you need a stand. It's the weight of it that weighs.
Oh yeah. Well, that was it. So AEW made this one. They had a Luchasaurus, right? And he's a big dude already. So there's a big fig. He's got all this stuff on him. The whole getup, this mask looks like supposed to be like a wrestling dinosaur guy. Really cool. Can't stand at all because of the weight. He's so top heavy that even with the stands, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. He has stiff legs. He's not gummy or anything, and he still tips over because it's just too much weight that the ab crunch just gives in, and he just falls forward. And it's a shame because it's a great looking fig.
Yeah, and Matthew's even saying, yeah, their paws are big enough. You don't need stands. Yeah, if you need a stand because you can't figure out how to stand them, then you don't deserve action figures. Just saying. All right.
Go. No action figures for you.
Yeah. It's been 3 hours.
3
I do want to wrap it up because some of us have to work in the morning. But we have to talk about what you and I have going on, and that is this Talking Reacher. Now,
anybody in the chat? Anybody watch Reacher? I'm just curious. Anybody interested in it?
Yeah, has anyone watched it yet? Or has watched the first 2 seasons, or they're planning on it? So we talked about it early on. It was something that you asked me because it just got brought up for some reason when you interviewed me. And you're like, hey, no one here is doing this. Everyone wants to work on Invincible. Would you be interested in doing this? And I said, hell yeah. I mean, and it's over on the Coalition. And again, if you're wondering, there are links to all three episodes right now. And anyone that watched Punks on Film, wasn't a lot of people. I know because Matthew and I did it, and but it's the same setup other than it's an hour and it's not live.
I think we talked about doing the season finale, doing that one live, because then at least we could do a rundown, and I'm sure that's when people would want to.
I think, again, we talked about it. I think the best thing to do would be obviously do the season, do the final episode, but then do a recap of everything.
Yeah, a recap of everything.
I think Sunday night, depending on how well it does. As of right now, the first one, if I pull it up here, episode 1 has over 100 views already.
All right.
So, for someone who's never been on your channel and the show just went up. Again, let's be honest, it's not as popular as a Star Wars or a Marvel show that goes on.
Will be because of people like us, Lawrence.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying right now it's not.
Oh yeah.
So
I'll tell you this much, and this is why I have faith. Because when I started doing the I Am Negan, the Walking Dead one, and it was already like mid through the main one, people were like, don't you know it's coming to an end? No one's gonna care about the spin-offs. I'm like, well, we'll cover it. And sure enough, the numbers went up because there was a downtime where Walking Dead was done, and then all the spin-offs, and people still want their fix. They want to, and we had it while all these other channels moved on to all these other shows and stopped talking about. We kept covering and we were covering it, and we provided that niche. We were there.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to something like this, when it comes to something like radio, it's personalities that you follow. I can go watch Screen Crush. I really like the guy. I like how he interacts with his dog, and Doug, his dog, has his own little voice and everything. I could sit there and I could watch them talk about, fucking, one of those singing shows or The Masked Singer or whatever, and I'd probably laugh about it because he just makes me laugh, and I think that's what you get. So again, I like the idea of just kind of talking about this, and I do think it is something we always have to kind of evolve. But again, this just happened to be that it came out the same day. This was not planned, which again is really shocking that it just happens. It didn't even drop this week. It dropped today. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and there are links to the first 3 episodes because we've only done 3.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, I think if we do anything else like this, and we'll probably have them all done way far in advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But kind of explain. I'm trying to think of what else there is here. Like, what did you plan on getting out of the whole talking Reacher thing?
Well, just more engagement on the show, Reacher itself, because like I said, a lot of people either they watched a few or they're not into it, or they thought they need to watch the first 2 seasons. They're like, I fell behind. Each season is different. You don't need to because they're based off of Lee Child novels, and each one was different. It was still revolving around Jack Reacher, but him doing some craziness and finding himself in a weird situation. If you don't know, he's a drifter, former military MP, sergeant, had his own crew, the 110. And when he finished his time in the military, he decided he wanted to just see the United States. And so he doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have anything. He has money that gets sent to his bank account that he goes to, Western Union every once in a while to pick up some cash. I don't even think he has a bank account or anything directly. He said his pension is set up in that way. He just travels around, and it's an amazing story. So my whole thing is to get that out there, to talk about it, to have fun, that people, when they tune in, they understand that these are people that ourselves, that we're not just reading off a script, following. I was like, oh, we're covering a show because this is what we do. We're a TV show channel. We have to cover it. No. And I get it when people do that form, that may work for them. But for me, and like you said, it's the personalities. It's that authentic of, oh, wow, these guys like this show. They're not covering it because they feel they have to, because it's what everyone else is talking about. That's what I felt with like House of the Dragon and all this. Because then I would listen to some people that I knew, like, there's a bunch of other guys that I follow that cover TV. And they're like, well, I guess I have to cover because everybody's watching. Once you start off with that, then I don't want to hear it. Because I don't want that. I want somebody who is enthusiastic, who cares about the IP, the property, and wants to talk about it, not feel like I have to because it's what's going around and I need the clicks and all that. So that's what we offer.
And one of the things that really made me want to work with you, or continue to, because I agreed to before you told me a lot of other stuff, but you also said, like, hey, when we were doing a lot of the Walking Dead stuff, they wanted to give us actors, and there were some people that wanted to interview them, but we felt like we're kind of tearing some of the stuff apart and some of the actors, and I don't want to bring them on because, well, I want to be objective on the show, and it's rude to just be like, well, you fucking like, your character sucks, like, you're a shitty actor, like. That's just rude. I mean, that's stuff that, we've seen sports hosts do stuff like that. We've seen people do that. No one wants to do anything like that. But you were so like, we didn't want to talk to the actors and bring them on because it skews your opinion of a show that you're trying to watch.
Oh, yeah. And it actually ruined the relationship. There was someone that was linked with our site, still there. I wish them all the best. They do all the stuff. But it was that type of issue where we were ripping up this particular episode, and then the next year it turned into a whole season, not only of the writing for the season, but then some of the acting. And then they reached out and it's like, hey, you want to interview this person? I was like, no. And this other member of the team was like, yes, we're going to do it. I'm like, why? For what? Because we're not saying anything positive. And if you come off and you just ask the typical questions, we're going to get called out on it from our audience, because we're like, well, you just said this person can't act at all in this scene and fake cried, it looked horrible, but what, you didn't even bring that up when you talked about this. And I didn't want to go down that road. So I was like, no, if we get a chance to talk, let's say, I don't know, the Alan Richardson, the guy who plays Reacher, that is a different story, because they were like, oh, you're a big dude, how are you doing with all this? We could, but if we're griping on someone, and then the studio's like, hey, talk to them. I was like, for what? Because it's not going to be good, and you're not going to want us to air it. Because it's gotten to that point, a lot of them, well, they will ask for the questions in advance, or they'll say certain things you can't say. And And if you come out and you say something that they don't like, they'll just cut it. They'll just cut the say right, boop, 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 because most of the time it's not live, it's taped.
Yeah.
And because they have to screen everything and they want to make sure certain things don't get leaked out. Maybe sometimes actors talk too much and they'll say something about an episode that hasn't aired yet, and spoil everything. I've heard that too. And so they'll like, nope, cut that. Nope. We'll set up a new interview. Forget it. Scrap that. That didn't work. He wasn't supposed to say that.
And right there, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to do interviews with the Hasbro team. Like, I don't ask the G.I. Joe team if I can get an interview with them because they want the questions, they want
softball. Everybody wants softball. All the companies want softball.
And I understand there is a market for that. I want to hear it, but I'm fine letting a Toy Kind of Mood in the Full Force and those outlets give the softballs. Like, that's what they want to do, and that's fine. When I did this with Lenny, head designer of G.I. Joe, and I sent him a couple of the episodes, he liked it because it wasn't talking about what he's doing in Classified. It was just talking about his life. And we had a wonderful fucking conversation for like 2.5 hours, right? It was 2.5 or 3 hours. I forget. He's like, I give you like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We just kept talking. And then we talked like an hour after because he was like, I really like that. I was really calm. And it wasn't, well, have you thought about doing this figure? Is this coming out? Like, there was a little bit of talk of Joe at the end, but it was about like what he's already done. And I just don't want that. There's a place for it. And I want to see that stuff. Like I said, a Toy Kind of Mood, they can do it. In the Full Force, they can have those interviews. It's not something that I want because I want to ask questions. I don't want the hard questions, okay? I don't want to be like, well, why don't you fucking make this one? Right? Some people are so adamant about it. But I do want to say, okay, we understand you cannot make Hooded Cobra Commander. Can you tell everyone why you can't? Because I've already told everyone. Bobby Vale has already told everyone. All right? There's articles that explain exactly why, but they want to hear it out of your voice. So I never have to be asked about this fucking character again. Like, there's certain things that you want to ask, and they just won't. They won't talk about future projects. And it's like, awesome. Like, I understand, like, you work for a corporation, you want to keep your job, but I don't want to have interviews like that. Like, to me, that's not a lot of fun. I can find that on Dan Who when Dan Who interviews them or whoever. And it's information. I mean, it's informative, but
and I think a lot of
what you want.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that do cover. You mentioned those, but then there's others, and it's very common, especially in Hollywood, with all that when a show comes out, and you'll see these actors on every channel, and they're all answering the same questions, and it's mainly because a lot of things are told that, all right, this is what you can talk about. There was for example, I won't bring all these names, but there was a certain person that reached out, and they were an actor that's linked to The Walking Dead. And there are people like, oh, yeah, they're working on this project, this and this. Great, but you can't talk about The Walking Dead. You can't ask any questions about The Walking Dead. Why are you reaching out to us? Do you not see what we talk about here? Like, yes, it's great this actor's doing other projects, but that's not what our audience is. We're not going to bring them on and say, oh, yeah, they're in this great romance, comedy, rom-com. No, they don't care about that. They want to know what that character who is still in that universe is doing in that universe. What's the idea? What's in your mindset? Do you contribute to the development of your character, or is it just all script and you just read it, write it, and go home? That's what they want. No, we can't do that then. And
I've listened to Jim Rome and Dan Patrick, both sports guys, say how they have reached out to people, or people have reached out to them, and they're like, hey, so-and-so would like to be on your show. Oh, awesome. And then they'll be like, well, he has this pitch, understandable, but he doesn't want to talk about his baseball career. Well, I'm a sports show, then I don't want to talk to him. But no. Hey, the way that it works is you have to give me something, and then I'm going to give you your time for your pitch. And if you're not willing to, then find another avenue. That's fine. No hard feelings. But why am I going to have a football player on that just made the Hall of Fame, but it's like, hey, he's doing, his fucking Blue Chew commercials, and that's all he wants to talk about. He doesn't want to talk about getting into the Hall of Fame. Well, not really what I want on a sports show, right?
Yeah. And the audience doesn't want that.
Yeah. And again, you're going to hear it on another show. And if people like softball, and again, there is a place and a time for them, and they are needed, right? They do give information, but they only give you the information that you want. So why do 4 or 5 different YouTubers have to get the same information? I can just get it from one where I know that I trust it, and done. I find better things to do with my time for what I want.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, and I think what it is also is some people hope that they'll just get that actor or that performer or athlete on an off day that they just spill the beans on all kinds of things. But that doesn't work that way because this is all, especially when it's on like this is all organized.
And they're all coached.
It's all coached. You're logging into their Zoom stream and they have a moderator who's quick with shutting things down at any point because it is recorded. Sometimes you don't even keep the recording. They let you know when it's ready because then they splice and they edit out certain things. So it's like
if you put something on your YouTube channel that they don't like, there is your copyright strike.
Yeah, there's a copyright strike, and then it's like, oh, you got to pull all this down. It's like, why? I spent no, we don't want this out, and if you do, then we're just gonna get all this other stuff pulled off. And so it's a lot of headaches. It's a lot more headaches, and if people want to go for it and then do all that, it could generate clicks. Definitely if it's a hot person, then people. But then once they get there and they're like, oh wow, you're answering the same questions that you did on Joe Schmo's channel and Billy Bob's channel. It's like, oh, nothing's new here. Why? Because of that. There's a format. There's certain things that are allowed to ask. Some things, and who knows? I knew somebody who said, oh, I got this person to say all kinds of craziness, and then when we saw the final product, they edit all that out. Yeah, they cut it. They cut that whole question and answer as if it didn't even happen.
Yeah, but there's a market for it, or people wouldn't be getting. They wouldn't want someone on with softball questions. They know they're going to get clicks, they're going to get eyes, and hopefully that grows your brand. And then there's other people like what you guys are doing, and that's not everyone. Like you said, there are some people that talk about it, where it's one of those things where it's like I just don't want to build it that way because I want people to be like, hey, when I tune into this channel. They're going to give me an honest opinion. And and I will be 100% honest. I've got to know people. So you don't want to, I don't ever want to criticize a product or a designer personally. I want to criticize. Well, I don't want to criticize. If I'm criticizing it based on what they've delivered. And if it's shit, then I'm going to say, hey, this is not good. Falcon's head sculpt. I can't say one good thing about it. It is awful. Luckily, the designer agrees.
There's been some bad ones,
but if you're telling me that they've had one awful head sculpt and 150 figures, and actually more than 150 figures, those are some pretty good odds.
Yeah, that Volk. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like we if anything, I'd rather hear from people. That's why we have the comments. Go ahead, leave a comment. We're doing these episodes. It's a discussion with us, but then with you guys as well and gals out there, whoever. If maybe you don't have anyone else to talk to about it, you at least have us. So that's the other part of this whole thing. If you come up with some ideas, one of the big gripes, and Lawrence will know because I almost went on a too long rant in episode 3 of this big swim that Reacher does from this compound, and he swims to the mainland. They don't tell us how long. They don't tell us the distance. He just does it both ways in a matter of hours. No cramps. It leaves a lot of questions. And hey, we don't know where that is. I messed up. I picked the wrong state that it was in.
I'll just say this. If we watch the episode and then we film right after. If we watched an episode and we had a day or two, I guarantee you I would have shown up there and Michael Phelps would have been there and he would have been like, I want you to explain what it's like to swim.
Yeah.
Quickly, Stanley says, who was a basketball player a few years ago on Dan Patrick botched his interview as he was just pushing his pitch too hard? Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning didn't want to talk anything about his career. He only wanted to talk about him, and I think they were finally like, this is a sports station. I'm going to give you your time, but you're not going to talk about it. No, I believe it. I believe that was the Alonzo Mourning. But anyway, I think it's time to wrap it up here. It's been almost 2.5 hours. And everyone's got to go watch Talking Reacher too. Well, watch the episode and then
you got all these days to watch it, comment. Also on the Spotify, put in a question because again, it's new that they're doing all this video stuff, and they keep sending me stuff. So I put a poll. Just click on whether you think it's audio or video, or if you don't care, it doesn't matter. Because we're just curious. Because we did episode 3 in video, the other 2 are audio. Doesn't matter to us. It's whatever works best for the people out there.
We're doing it. We're doing a video.
Yeah, we got both. Yeah, we got them anyway. So it's whatever the way people prefer to consume the content.
Pop. He asked about the basketball player. Harvey was the baseball player, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Alonzo Mourning is a basketball player.
Yeah, but Matt. Yeah, but he asked about the basketball player. Matt Harvey was someone who refused to talk about his career. He only wanted to talk about Qualcomm. The Alonzo Mourning, actually, that may have been the Jim Rome one.
I feel like you could hear these gotcha moments sometimes when they're doing these interviews, and then somebody gets asked a question. He's like, "Oh, we're bringing that up." And once they say that and they look off to the side, I'm sure they're looking at their publicist, whatever. And it's like, "I thought you screened them. I thought you told them not to ask."
Okay, so you're thinking of Matt Harvey. I think the Alonzo Mourning one was on Jim Rome, where same thing. He did not want to talk about any of his basketball. And he was like, all right, well, we're just going to end this because you're not like, he's like, it's a game. I'm giving you something, but you also have to give me something too. I'm the biggest sports radio show in the world. I'm not just going to give you everything. You have to give me something. And again, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's a sports show. It's a sports show.
But anyway, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me either on the Coalition Writing doing some reviews. I'm working on this Yakuza Pirate one now. That's a fun game. And Spider-Man 2 is a hot mess on PC, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that. You can find me over...
You can talk about the new action figures.
Oh, let's not talk about these action figures.
Maximum.
Yeah, Maximum Spider-Man 2 experience, because that's also in the shit bowl. Yeah, they're all in the same boat. Oh man. But there, and I don't really do too much on social like I used to because it's all craziness, but I'll comment and stuff about things over on my threads that I'm trying to build up. It's at Adam ATON Vale. So you can find me there. It's funny because there's like he's an Australian football player, also named Adam Vale. But Australian football, that's the one where they wear the basketball jerseys and then they throw the ball up in the air, but they run like they're playing football.
I think there's 2 different versions.
Yeah.
I found out by talking to my Australian friends that there's 2 different types of rugby, which is football.
Yep. And I remember when I first jumped on Twitter, I had my name on. I'm also on Twitter, just Adamville, and all these people sending me, "Great guy, mate," and and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then he sent me a message. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," it's like because I think it's just one letter off a cap, or he did something. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I was getting messages for something that he did out there in Australia, but anyway, yeah, there, and of course over on the Coalition on the YouTube, we're doing all these videos. We're doing this with Reacher and stuff, and who knows what else after this. But that's it.
Head over there, give us a subscribe, hit the like, even if you don't watch it, just hit like so people think that people like it, and more people go out there and they're like,
there we go.
We know how it goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Adam, I'm gonna say thank you for being on here. Although you and I, like you said, I've talked to you more than most people in the past few weeks.
Yeah, we talked a lot.
Whether it's trying to figure out how we're gonna do the show or doing the show, and I've had a blast so far. And thank you very much for agreeing to do this before we even knew we were gonna do another show. So.
Yeah, I'm glad everything worked out. We talked about that before. You never know how certain things are going to go, and interactions and chemistry with people, and
Yep.
and it worked out. Everything worked out, and here it is. We got all the projects going on now, and it's a win-win. And like you said, the first episode is only a few hours now. We got 100, and that's great. More people over the weekend will definitely start watching Reacher once it gets word out that it's back.
Yep.
And it'll be good. It'll be good.
So anyway, thank you very much, everyone else. You can find me once again. I'll be back Monday. I hope you guys all didn't miss me last Monday. I went out and skateboarded. But that wasn't the original plan, but we'll talk about that Monday. Adam, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Monday, and
keep collecting.